Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2025 Victorian Historic Racing Register Winton Festival of Speed. And there is action been happening for the last day and a half. This is the first time that the live stream has gone out there to the big wide world. And I tell you what, the live stream, gotta acknowledge the amazing patronage already here trackside. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Darren Smith, and we are looking forward to the next, well, 2 day and a half of racing and live streaming that is just going to be so action-packed, it's not funny. We've already had every category on track so far today. Regularity cars are on track as well. I want to bring into the broadcast a couple of my co-competitors. Yes, having some competitions up here myself. Co-commentators for this event. A guy that is very, very experienced, a local gentleman, as he is, and renowned for around the traps in hill climbing, also locally here in the northeast of Victoria. Phil Membry, welcome to the 2025 Festival of Speed, of course brought to us by Premier and Racer Industries.
Thank you very much for having me. It's with all that build-up, I was a bit worried that there was someone else in the commentary booth here that I didn't know about, but yeah, great to be here and look at these cars out on track. There's some great machines about, and there's also some really, really cool machines out over the back of the old start-finish straight here, just in the display area.
It's fantastic to be back, isn't it? You've done a number of these Winton Festival of Speeds, and when we look out the window and we look into the big wide ether around the world, the amount of people putting eyes on this event is just growing and growing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a great event, and well, look at the weather we've got here. We've turned it on for you this weekend. You can't get a better spot to be.
Well, those Mexicans like me that have come up from Melbourne for the weekend, this is absolutely glorious. You normally sort of breeze on by heading towards the snowfields at this time of the year, but pull the handbrake on, turn off the hume, and head into the track. Phil, what are you looking forward to out of the 2025 iteration of the Festival of Speed?
Oh, just the sight of all these cars. There's glorious cars out there, and the weather's being so good. We're going to see some hot times, and some of the young drivers that are here this weekend. Lee Ball in a Formula V, young chap from Camperdown down in the Western District. I've known him since he was quite a young fellow. Look forward to seeing him out on track. There's a number of other cars, the sports sedans now. The Mercedes, the Brian Thompson machine from Shepparton. How can you not want to see that car?
Yeah, absolutely. That one, and of course, that's the genuine article, and right along in the sheds down there anyway, right alongside is the replica of the Peter Fowler built Tomo Volkswagen. How cool is that? They're going to be out on track. They're actually out on track sort of in the middle of the afternoon, the sports sedans, at about 3:45. A very big welcome to those watching on via the YouTube channel. V8 Sleuth is where you can find it all, or the VHR Facebook page there as well. But a big shout out to everybody watching online. Someone, if you have been watching a bit of motorsport in Victoria, particularly online, will be my next commentator I'll bring into the conversation. She's been renowned around the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships as the accurate one and the smiling one. Emma Dean, welcome to the Winton Festival of Speed.
Thanks, Darren. You pumped my tyres up too much there, but I'll take it. Now, for anyone watching at home, welcome race fans. You're seeing a mixed bag on track. We've got an XL out there and a flat bow Porsche. So, Phil, I'm just wondering, this is the regularity class. So if you could explain a little bit about what the regularity is and why there's such a broad selection of cars on track right now.
Well, it's not about the outright speed. It's not a race. You nominate a time and you go out there, and the idea is to try and hit that time every time you go around the track. If you break out, as in you go too fast, then you are penalised in points. If you go too slow, you are also penalised in points, but not quite as hard in the penalising as if you go too fast. So you really don't know, in the breakfast brand races, as I refer to them, the regularity, you really don't know who has won a regularity event until it's all over.
Well, it sounds like they've won their own race if they've managed to keep their own times or better them. Is that correct?
Pretty much. And of course, if you can go out there and regularly hit your time, it doesn't matter whether there's a faster car out there that's been out there, if they haven't regularly hit their time, you'll beat them.
So who is this best suited for? Is this suited for someone who, say, has a beautiful car at home, maybe a rare car like the Flak Bell that we're seeing out there, which for everyone not Porsche mad like me is a slant nose 930, 911 Porsche. Is it for people that want to protect the car or people that want to start getting into racing, or a bit of both?
Well, it's a bit of both. There'll be guys out here who have not raced before, and there'll be guys out there who have raced and are going, I'm in my retirement years, I just want to slow down. I want to go out, cruise around, come back into the pits, take my helmet off, and I've got a big grin from ear to ear on my face. So to compete in regularity, you do not need a full circuit racing licence. You only need a limited speed licence. So you haven't got to go through all of the hoopla of having a full-on race licence. You can do really, really well in this event. I noticed Jane Vollebrocht in an MGB out there. Now, Jane competed in hill climbs. She was doing sprint racing and she was doing some circuit racing as well. I was speaking to her down in the pits earlier on, and she's elected now that she's just retiring back into just doing the regularity, going out, having a bit of fun.
And as we all know, there's plenty of race cars in Victoria, the state of Victoria, and all states around Australia that are probably sitting in a garage with someone that keeps walking past them saying, I should get that out one weekend. And this is probably the perfect entry for those guys if they're not experienced or if they've been out of a seat for a while.
Hey guys, can I just cut in just on the live stream, bringing it to our attention? There's our sponsors. Premier is the title sponsor here this weekend. Build Spec, Rapid Smash Repairs, Lloyd's Metal Fabrications, Tyre Power Benellan. Big shout out because Chris Lewis Williams has got his photo there on the screen. G'day Chris, great to have you here in the 944s. The Auto House 300, Equity One, huge partners for the Victorian Historic Racing Register. Shannon's Insurance are the ones to go to. We already know that after many, many years of Shannon's involvement in Australian motorsport. My Race Lab on board there as well. And all of these sponsors just contribute so very generously, along with FS Bagnello & Co., the leading accountants out of Ascot Vale, Cave Hill Engine Services for engine reconditioning, Performance Race Engines out of Lilydale, Cryocycle Thermal Technologies also out of Lilydale, Rubbercraft Race Tyres out of Australia and New Zealand, McDonald Automotive out of Wangaratta. That'd be one of your mates, Phil, the guys from Wang there.
Yeah.
NPAV, the professional audio video equipment, Australia and New Zealand. Lloyd's Metal Fabrications, I think they've got a display out the back behind in the show area. Expert Steel Fabrications, Hyperwave Broadband, providing high-speed fixed wireless internet and around regional Victoria. Rapid Smash Repairs, Build Spec, and of course those all-important sponsors to the Victorian Historic Racing Register, Shannon's Insurance, Racer Industries, Cool Drive Auto Parts, and Equity One. A couple of things around the regularity, Phil, is that just touching on it, and it is an interesting way for young drivers to get into
100%.
it. And there's actually one of our co-commentators for this weekend, first ever commentator to race at this event last year, young Tom Reed. Going back about a month ago, his dad has raced in Formula Ford seriously in his younger days, but still, and he'd be racing in the Formula Ford specific race later on. But young Tom has managed to get himself a ride in this, and I'm just actually looking for young Tom out there at the moment. He's in car number 36. He's showing fourth on the track. It's a little black Formula Ford Quincy car made out of the UK. So just thought I'd throw a bit of a spotlight on a guy that's going to give us generously his time, and we'll see if we can pick up some nice shots of Tom whilst he's going around. But just it's like a display. Em, you're just fresh off the Melbourne Car Show. It's like displaying everything out of automotive history, isn't it?
This is a rolling car show. It's fantastic. Where would you see an XL and a Mustang out on track together? I mean, that's pretty mad. And look, I haven't seen Being Porsche Mad. I'll keep going on about it because I love the livery on it. Oh, there's Tom.
There he is.
Yep.
Good on him.
On our screen.
Having a bit of a go. This is his debut meeting, so nice to be able to put a spotlight on the young fella. He's just trying to find a nice way through, because you'd expect, well, you can see where his head height is. It's under the height of the rear bobtail on that beautiful Mustang just sitting in front of him there. But he's finding his way. He's learning how the the gearbox works and how much grip he's got, probably more compared to that pony car in front of him. But that sort of, Phil, I guess what I was getting to, spotlighting what you can use regularity for.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, the guys are told you not to do dive bombing down the inside. You need to keep it clean. And Tom's just shown us how clean he is as a driver there by going down the inside, but safely down into the old tank corner. Just a nice and easy pass there on the Mustang.
Well, his dad would have, I'm sure, over the last month given him some pretty clear brain bugs about keeping it on the track, keeping it away from other cars. It's not our car. Great that we've been given this car. And Tom actually spoke to him early this morning. Thanks for that call early too, Tom. It's very interesting. He's absolutely champing at the bit. So they had the 8:30 slot for practice this morning. So he was up at, before the sun came up to get out there. But good on him. I was just actually looking back at last year. Phil, you and I did this one. Daniel Brazil won in, of all things, the Datsun Bluebird, and it was a Datsun. If you look at it, 2 spots on the podium because it was a Datsun 240k coupe, and I think that same 240k coupe is racing in Group A and C this one.
You might be right.
One of those, or maybe
we'll have to wait and see.
We will. So there's an advancement. Last year regularity.
Yep.
Now into a lights and flags
100%.
race.
And look, you'll see that quite a bit, and it's really good to see. Of course, some of the people may run in hill climbs as well, because you only need a limited speed licence to be able to compete at a hill climb. And so that's another really good way to get started in motorsport. In fact, there's a number of hill climbers here this weekend, including none other than a previous Australian hill climb champion, that of Malcolm Osler. So we will see him later on in the open wheeler category.
Having a look at this number 63, this is of course a very interesting vehicle, the Ford Roadster, and we've got the high maintenance Roadster parked out the back here as well. It's up there, so I'm pretty sure Sandra Horn, who's doing some Facebook and social media stuff, should be keeping an eye on that Roadster, although hers has got a lid on it. But this gives you the full gamut of things, doesn't it?
Where do you ever see that? That's like the perfect advertising for come and have a go. If you've been wanting to get your car out on track and there's not a category dedicated for your type of car, come down and hop into the regularity at the Winton Festival of Speed.
Sorry, Emma, that's the George Reed special. That's Louise Raper in that one this weekend. That's a very special race car that hardly ever misses a race meeting, by the way. It's always entered. But, she's parked it up and is getting out over there. So had a fair old off down there since they reprofiled that turn 4 in the COVID years. It's been very, very fast. She didn't actually make it to turn 4, but was obviously gathering speed and has gone right off down through the back of that sand trap. I'm going to say, Phil, no harm, no foul. Yes, it's bogged, but it didn't hit anything.
Correct. That's a good move. And for a car of that age, it's been around a long time. It's competed all over the place. Really good stuff. And with checkered flag is out for the regularity.
I was just noticing a 120Y on the screen there coming down into turn 3. Yeah?
Thanks, Darren. If anyone has listened to Darren and I do commentary before, he always sets me up for embarrassing stories to come out about me. I'm not falling for that one.
How many have we got, Darren?
That's the lead one. That was my lead one. Hey, let's have a quick look before the timing screen rolls over. Roskill, a 153. Progellus or Predis 151. So I'll premise this with that it's not a winner, it's their times. We don't know. Their nominated times are pretty close there. Just looking for someone who's pretty close to their times.
Well, Roskill has got 44 points remaining, which is a clear winner there. 38 points to Grannis, 37 points to Tom Reed. Well done in the little Formula Ford.
On
36 for Bates. Church has got 36 also, so there'll be a bit of a coin flip going on there. 34 points remaining for Callanan, and Hill on 33. Now, how do I pronounce that name?
Gu Henrik.
Yeah, I'm not good on names, and I apologise most vehemently to the driver of that car, Gu Henrik, with 29 points remaining, 26 points remaining for Brereton, and McKee on 24 points. So that's regularity pretty much done and dusted.
Yeah, that is. And we do have a couple of categories that are regularity. That is the traditional sense, the mixed bag of regularity. The next event on track, again, is a regularity. It's the tribute cars regularity side of things. I'm hoping that Brett Florence will be joining us for that one. But we do have a couple of recoveries going on. Of course, there is Louise Draper in the George Reed, and another one of those specials which is just making its way back through the old pit exit lane there. So that'll be an interesting recovery. We might just head to a quick break as these cars make their way back around into the pit lane. We have got the regularity for the tribute cars coming up. And just before we do, Emma, how's your first regularity you've commentated for at the Winton Festival of Speed?
It's a treat, and it's a sampler for what's to come for the whole weekend. We have got a jam-packed calendar for today and tomorrow. So that was a nice little tidbit, a little morsel for everyone to see a sample of what's coming up in the following categories. I tell you, the walk around the pits here, Darren, is like a trip down memory lane for me, and such a treat. There's some gorgeous cars that are yet to come, so please stay tuned, everyone.
You can sort of pick your eyes out of the program, Phil. I know you like to do that. You like to go and dig around in the show cars and down in the paddock area and get over to the fence and watch the cars go around that you want to watch go around. And but you can while the hours away walking up and down the paddock, can't you?
I've had my favourite scooting boots on today and been around just about every pit garage there is. Spotted a lot of people that I know, and some people who know me who I've forgotten their names. So that always seems to happen at motor race meetings as well.
Here come the tribute cars down into pit lane. We'll take a quick break here in commentary. A very big welcome, as I said, to everyone that's made their way here to the track and joining us online. Stay with us right throughout the weekend. If you are joining us online and you're from the Albury, Wodonga sort of border towns, or from Echuca, Melbourne, Geelong and beyond, Gippsland, plenty of time to get to the track here, even for today, because believe it or not, we will still have race cars on track at about 10 to 6 tonight. But then we have got from 8:30 till about 10 to 6 tomorrow night racing here on the track. So I got to tell you, live streaming's great. It really is, because it brings people that can't get to the track the action, but getting to the track and having it live in all dimensions is definitely the best way to go. We'll be back with Cars on Track in just a few moments.
And so we come to the halfway point of the season, and to the scene of one of Australia's most famous shootouts, the Victorian High Country, Benalla, home to the Kelly Gang, and to this place, Winton, and to the 2025 Festival of Speed. And here again, the big guns are coming out to play. What about this bloke? Cam Bella, the greatest of them all. 5 championships. Count them. That's right. 5 titles. No one gets the last of first victory at Sandown.
This is Bella. This is unbelievable. Bella has come from the back of the pack. He's going to do it.
That one was enough to bring a tear to even the most toughest man. No one has more titles in the category's history, and he's not slowing down anytime soon.
Is it a bit of strategy coming in, or is it just plant the foot, go around track as fast as you can?
Pretty much as fast as we can.
But this year, he's got some company. Adam Brewer, the Black Widow Spider, a multiple race winner, hard and fast and sitting second. And there is no one more hungry for a title of his own.
You're feeling a bit emotional right now, aren't you?
It is tough. You get out of the car, you just stop. You've got nothing left.
Then there's Mark Torbers. They call him El Presidente, a back-there 6-hour champion of Winton Raceway.
There's the checkered flag. Mark Torbers can finally breathe again.
Hey!
Gets to the line, and that's a victory, and a sweet, sweet victory indeed.
BJ Grant, the smiling assassin, stumbled at Phillip Island, but early season strong results have him in fifth.
Oh, look at Peter Grant on the back of Chris Lewis-Williams. He is really, not to sound disparaging at all, but he is punching, I wouldn't say above his weight, but he's certainly punching up in this race, Peter Grant.
Jack Atley, Stormtrooper. There's not much of him, but he's sitting 6th. His best ever season. He may not start any wars, but he's happy to finish it.
It's Goldman
Gonna
coming
go
up the
side
inside.
by side. These guys are building the drama. You'd have to say Jack Atley's written the script for this one. This is an absolute ripper on the line.
Sammy Rowe, Mr. Nice Guy. Off track, you won't meet a nicer guy.
Yeah, not too bad. Just getting used to the car. I think I need more seat time.
But yeah, that's off track. On track, his best ever season too. Sitting 7th, fast, clean and smooth with a rocket of a car. Nick Carpenter, gentle by nature, but put a helmet on him and it's a different story.
Terrific. That is a fantastic little menu entree to the very last race for today. So that is fantastic. The Porsche 944s is going to be the last race on the program, brought to you by Tyre Power Benalla here this weekend. But that is a fantastic category. So racy, and I'm going to put my reputation on the line. If you stay here until the start of that race at 5:30, you will see some of the fiercest door handle to door handle, nearly door handle tearing off racing. And in the V8 Sleuth podcast that was in the lead up to this weekend, it was described as the German HQs. And I won't say that. I'll just refer you to the V8 Sleuth podcast for that. But certainly can't wait for that 5:30 race this afternoon for the Porsche 944s. Something very interesting that we did really well last year here at this event, that well that everybody couldn't wait for the 365 days to roll around, and that is the cars that we've got on track now. Group A and C touring car tribute regularity. Brett Florence, who has worn out 3 pairs of shoes in the last 3 days making sure this event happens, has joined me here in commentary for just a bit of relaxing time watching the category that he holds so dear to his heart do some laps around. I'll bring you in now, Brett. How good is it to actually have the cars that you love being around out on track right now?
Mate. Yeah, this is great, except for the car that just ran off the track. But yeah, this is fantastic. We've got some great cars, awesome liveries. Cars that you wouldn't see in regular heritage touring cars because some of them have already gone to God, and guys are made a tribute out of it. It's awesome.
Now, let's drill down on what a tribute touring car is. Okay, for you and I, those 3 words mean something, but for those watching maybe internationally on the live stream or even here at the track that may not have seen a future tour, for example, or a Group C replica, what's the ethos behind it?
Well, the ethos was these cars were, basically a replica of, or in some format, of a Group C or a Group A car, which is what our heritage touring cars are. With slight modifications, some of them got stroker engines or bigger brakes, etc. But essentially that's what they're designed around. But these guys were running around in our normal regularity, and we felt that we could build a class out of it and give the guys with normal regularity their chance, and then obviously get these guys, which are so much faster. And it's a stepping stone into the guy who wants to get into racing and then maybe want to buy a C&A car later on in their life. So it's a middle ground that we've developed, and it's working well. And you can see by these cars out there, they're some fantastic cars.
So I'm going to put an example to you. I've got a VK Commodore. I haven't got a 5-litre engine because I can't find one, or I'm a bit tight. I'm not going to shell out the clamps one of them Can I go and get an LS3 out of a crate, put it in one of these, paint it up, put the HDT on it, and pretend I'm Peter Brock or one of those guys? Is that what you can do?
Yeah, that's basically what you can do. But what we've done is, in line with other Motorsport Australia categories, we've sort of capped the LS and most engine configurations around that 6 litre mark. So your LS3, obviously it's over, but you know, these cars they weigh nothing. You could put a 5.3 LS in it, which is under $1,000, and you could be out there running around. And just like you said, you know, the old Holden 308. Anyone who's built one recently will know how deep your pockets need to be. You know, you've got the opportunity to put an LS3 in it, or LS2, or you know, LS1. You don't really need massive horsepower because the cars are light and they're good fun anyway.
It is interesting that, you know, I sort of put a spotlight on the venerable Holden 308. You know, the 5 litre. You know, the 5 litre was in my Sandman panel van that towed my race car around everywhere, and then a VH had a you know, again another 308, and they were just sold on as used cars.
Exactly. I mean, there's guys that originally had Commodore Cup cars that turned them into this, and they had the 253 Commodore Cup, you know, car, and it was fantastic. They're fast little cars, you know. So you don't need massive power. This is all about having fun.
It really is, and I tell you what, when you look at some of the cars out there, and you know, if you're lucky enough or unlucky enough to be of a vintage, and you look at the VH Citizen car, and you go, oh, I remember sitting on the couch with Dad and loving those things, and you know, just cementing the motorsport into your psyche. I host the Grassroots Racing podcast, and the first question we ask our guests is, what's your first memory of motorsport? And it doesn't matter whether they come from drag racing, rallying, circuit racing, sitting on the couch with Dad watching the Bathurst 1000.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, in line with where Heritage Touring Cars is heading, those guys have opened up their category to 2000, essentially. So in line with that, we've allowed this category to grow up to that era. So that's why you've got now the EB Shell, the Pinnacle Motorsport car, which is just brand new. So, you know, we've got those cars now starting to appear as well.
How's this for a bit of synergy? Just going around the sweeper now, we'll having a look at the Moffat coupe that won the 1-2 at Bathurst, then the VK Group A, then the VL, all cars that Moffat drove.
Exactly.
Or liveries of cars.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And then you've got the Rover. You know, we've got a couple of Rovers, which, you know, who would have thought that guys would just jump into a Rover? But
an SD1.
Yeah, I know. And it's great.
It is really cool to see, and there is that mix there as well. Like as you said, a couple of them were called, oh, that didn't look good. Bit of an excursion. They're talking about an SD1.
Yeah.
It says it on the window. Rover 3.5 litre into that. And there's still 50% of the population that would love to drive a car that looked like one of Brock's cars, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
The other 50% probably that fastback coupe that we're looking at there as well.
So, you know, look, you know, as in line with most things, the biggest limitation, you know, we have is guys that, you know, would love cigarette sponsorship. You know, we can't have that. So, you know, those cars need to be covered up, which is, there's one out there, but that's just a fact of life these days.
It is. Roger Chazais just looking there on the number 9, the fastback coupe there. That's terrific to see. Really does, I guess, in a nostalgia perspective, there we go. Have a look at that. That is just magnificent. Now, it isn't the car, but for all intents and purposes, you walk out to your shed and you've built that car, and you have built it in every vein the same as it was built when it was a race car. In fact, with modern welding techniques and modern different bits and pieces, you know, brake pad material, things like that, they're probably better.
Oh, absolutely. And if there's anyone in the crowd here today, and it is a massive crowd, like I'm impressed with the amount of people that are here, it's fantastic. But if anyone wants to have a look at these cars, walk down to the bottom end and have a look, because they are every much a race car as anything else that's here. So
whereabouts are these guys in the paddock? They're out on the skid pan.
Yeah, they're on the bottom skid pan. Yep. There's some great big marquees down there, and these guys are all in a great big circle down there. So and it's a great atmosphere.
Let's just drill down to tin tacks a bit here, Brett, because I know I'm speaking to the right guy. I want to get involved. Where do I go? Do I come down and talk to the guys in the
Yeah,
paddock?
just join the guys and just come and talk to the guys. I can steer you in the right direction, mate.
So where is it? Website?
Oh, look, there's a couple of Facebook pages that we've been running, but essentially, look, it's in its infancy, and we have started to talk to like the VHRR about growing it even more. So we will have these cars at Sandown again this year, at Sandown Historics, and I know that Malala Historics ran the same category, so it is slowly, and we'll build it up, and hopefully we can get some rules around things with Motorsport Australia and just keep growing it in the right direction.
I've got to say that slowly building with 26 cars here this weekend, there's a lot of categories with like 18 cars on the track, let alone 26, so I'm going to quote a movie here, and that is, if you build it, they will come.
Correct.
The field of dreams.
Yeah, absolutely, and there'd be 30 odd cars either in the build or not here this weekend. So, it's a strong field, and the guys are from all over the country, so it's really strong.
Just having a good look at this EL, the John Hoskins, John Bow tribute. Bowie, of course, would normally be here with Joe Collegiate with the Corvette, but sadly Joe blew the engine up in the Corvette. Lucky for Bowie, he's over at Spa racing the Volvo, his old Volvo. But have a look at that. Bowie would love to be here. He would absolutely, that's glory days, John Bow, right there.
Exactly. You're right.
Fantastic stuff. So, g'day to Bowie. It's probably the middle of the night over there. I'm pretty sure he'll catch up. I was chatting with him on Messenger earlier on in the week, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not that young anymore. I don't get up in the middle of the night and watch your live stream, Darren." And I said, "I reckon you will. The 18 car will be there." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's a tribute car. And gee, they do a great job."
Yeah.
So coming from a JB on that sort of thing, there's a big compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that some of the old drivers that have had their cars replicated have contacted the owner or vice versa, and discussed various things that is unique to that car, and which has been fantastic, and they all love it. So just to even have their car redone is something that these guys love.
Andrew Ortlap there in the number 28 XC1 Tirana. I like the way this is the old man's, clearly harking back to one of the cigarette brands that was famous there in the VL era, and really just on the cusp of Brock's
demise.
Yeah, and the HSV aspect rolling in. Here's a couple of cars that were certainly, that's a replica of the VK, the last of the big bangers. Three events, 3 firsts, and park it up. Group A racing.
Exactly, can't beat that.
Yeah, that is a cool livery, and we get it. We know what it is. And to have that parked in the shed, and you've got to say, Raoul Sand, well done to them for spending the time and effort to make that car. Here's that number 18, John Bow replica again, championship winning car in the very early days when it was called V8 Supercars. And really, if you look at it, probably the golden era of the supercars era, with upwards of 45 cars on every grid now. They've got half that many, and I get it with the franchise way that championship has gone, but really cool to have this replica, the number 18, and a lot of work has gone into that with John Hoskins, Victorian, who's at the wheel there.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, there's a yellow Jansen VH running around. That's its first event this weekend, and he's driven all the way from Adelaide, which is fantastic, and it's spectacular to look at. So it's a really cool car. So there's some really good, strong liveries from the era.
Just getting there's a lot of media here this weekend, which is good. I mean, Brett, apart from your involvement with the tribute cars for, I'm going to say, the other 6 months of the year, this 6 months of the year involved in running this particular event, and terrific to see the amount of coverage that's going. Yeah, when you see photographers and all lying around the track, and those photos are going to publications or websites or content.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's getting out there to the world, and live streaming. Like that's what you and I are doing right now. now is telling the world about something that's happening at the middle of northeastern Victoria here at Winton. And when you look at that shot and how green the grass is out there, there we go. There's another one. And if you, I guess it's not as affordable as it was in the 80s to have an Escort, is it? But certainly it's something completely different. And in the Australian Touring Car Championship-wise, Escorts, RX3s, Datsuns, they were every day, every round. You had to have one of these guys names like Rod Stevens, who I actually had dinner with a couple of Rod Stevens' crew last night. Rod's dearly departed, but these Escorts were absolute legends. Guys like Gary Rogers and
so many guys started out in an Escort, didn't they?
They absolutely did.
And if you look at Heritage Touring Cars this weekend, there's a couple here, and they're still going. They're unbelievable.
This is Pete Mason. We're having a look here in the 63. We saw numerous other cars. There was Nick Higgins last year ran that the Toyota livery car. Yeah. I love that car. That the John Faulkner Toyota Australia type of entries, and Nick drove that very well. I noticed Nick's got official duties. That's
good.
That's not what we wanted to see, is it?
No, not at all. But anyway, that's a new car as well, that VH. So just a couple of teething problems, I would say. So, or thereabouts.
Yeah, so the 06 heading in. Chris Young, another Victorian. Pinnacle Motorsports. Boy, that was one of the more famous privateer teams, this livery on this car.
Yep, so Craig's a local guy from Wangaratta, and one of his close mates was racing here last year, but his car's under a rebuild, and Craig sort of said, why not, I'll come on board, and he picked Pinnacle because it's different, and great privateer team from the era, and it suited his car, so he went with that way.
Brad Robinson's doing a great job at the moment in the number 77 out there as well, so he's going along very, very nicely in the Holden GTR, the green one, and he's doing well as far as the competition which we have to keep up with. And then it's the number 11 of Travis Kirby with 44 points, 39 points there for Martin Reynolds, and Ralph also there as well is competing quite nicely. So that was the VH that we saw in the Brock livery. The number 18 has parked it off the sweeper there.
Yeah, and Trav Kirby was the overall winner last year, actually. So he's pretty consistent again this year, by the look of it. And this session's coming to an end, Darren.
So there we have it. I tell you what, we have jumped away beautifully on time, and it is a massive program. So regularity, we've had tribute cars regularity. Group N and invited, they were going to be lining up for their first race at 1:30. That's not what we want to see, is it?
No, but this event was brought to us by Auto Haas Vehicle Storage in Moorabbin. Those guys got behind us this year, and so yeah, it's great. The three races, they come on board for an overall sponsorship. So a big thanks to Taz and his team down there at the Auto Haas Vehicle Storage in Moorabbin. So we really appreciate their support.
It really is at this kind of event, the sponsors that you get on board, they're serious motorsport people, aren't they? And I'll throw the big Namey Ride sponsors in there as well, the equity ones.
Yeah.
Dean Kutsumitis is a racer.
Yeah, exactly.
And Shannon, you can't open the door of a racetrack with when you're going to have historic cars at it without Shannon's insurance.
Yeah,
it's synonymous with the sport, isn't it? So there is really the oldest saying in the book about motorsport is support the sport that supports your sport.
That's right. We've got a New Zealand company that's come on board this year as well with My Race Lab, and that's a computer system where you can overlay all your GoPro data across their system, and it shows you the optimum times around the track. And it's the guys here are using it this weekend, and for them to come on board from New Zealand was really, really impressive. they can see the value.
Well, at the end of the day, it's still marketing, isn't it? You're trying to get a product out there amongst like-minded people that are going to... The main thing you come to a racetrack for is about a lap time.
That's right.
So, you know, focus on it and use every bit of technology you possibly can.
Yeah, and for guys to regularity in particular, they love it. So, but yeah, we've got our core group of sponsors. They come back every year, and they really support our event, which is great. And Dean's one of those at Equity One. And, we've got Racer Industries again. They come on board every year. They support our club and our events, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that family do very, very well with their support, don't they? So Racer Industries, and you throw Cool Drive in there with that mob. So let's have a quick rundown before this disappears. It's the 77 of Robinson, 50 points remain. Kirby 44, Reynolds in the 85 with 39, and disappears off our screen. So sorry, can't get through to that top 10. Great shot there of pit lane, and left-hand side of the pit lane as we're looking at it now will be the next field that starts to roll down, and that is Group N, and invited will be a qualifying session. Sadly, not a race, because their qualifying session was cut very, very short this morning. Brett, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming in here and lending all of your knowledge specifically around these tribute cars, and great to have them all on track. And with the Group A and Group C cars out on track later, it really does give everyone here at the track enjoying this beautiful sunshine.
I know, mate. It's unbelievable,
weather, isn't it?
Yep.
So I guess we shout out to everyone watching on the stream. Thanks for joining us. Get in the car and come down here and enjoy it in all dimensions.
Absolutely.
I love live streaming, but I tell you what, there's nothing quite like being at the track and getting it in all dimensions, is there?
No, you're right.
All right, mate. Well, you got to get yourself some new shoes to retread those bad boys, and we'll see you later on with some more regularities.
Thank you, mate.
We'll be back very, very soon here at the 2025 Victorian Historic Racing Register Winton Festival of Speed. On track will be the qualifying for the Group N and invited cars in just a few moments. Back soon.
And what about our own gang, the Westerways? There's 3 of them. Michael came from nowhere at Phillip Island, but took out all in front of him. Tony, another race driver with pole positions, a tough as nails veteran who makes no mistakes. And then there's the best of them all, Jamie Westerway, a Bathurst 6-hour champion, a multiple race winner.
First outing here for Jamie Westerway this weekend. He takes the checkered flag.
And a 2-time series champion. If anyone knows how to win, it's this guy. And that's just the top 10. Smashing down that door, the young gun, Carter Fox, has the Hollywood looks, but don't let that fool you.
As Carter Fox goes around the outside of Tony
Fantastic move by
Westerway.
the young fella. And he makes good corner.
He's fast and hungry and determined, and he's coming. Tony Andreski, suave, cool, calm and collected, until he puts a helmet on, that is. Josh Brisbane, beautiful one day, perfect the next. Had a stunner at the island, taking all around him, and another who knows how to fight and to get results. Andrew Goldman, new to the category, but with a solid point to prove, and he'll let nothing stand in his way of moving up the grid. And to come back, Chris Lewis-Williams, 4 championship titles under his belt. Andrew Jackman, a 2-time Bathurst 6-hour champion. The Bull Master, master by name and master by nature. Let alone Mark Verdino, simply known as the Vendetta. No one forgets his wins at Calder, or the fights he's had with the top 3. And it all kicks off again at Winton, on the 1st until the 3rd of August. This is the Winton Festival of Speed. And this is hard, tough, door-to-door banging, no holes barred, take no prisoners, last man standing, good old-fashioned racing.
There's nothing in it. It's 3 wide as they cross the stripe. Unbelievable stuff.
This is 944.
Welcome back trackside, ladies and gentlemen. We're just waiting for the Group N cars to make their way out onto track, and we're just looking down the pit lane at the moment, and touched on that last category, the Rod Stevens Escort. There's definitely one down there heading around to the marshalling area for the Group A, Group C race. So if you remember Rod Stevens in his Escorts, then there'll be one of those out there for you to have a good look at. A very big stacked field of Group N here this weekend, and really looking forward to seeing how this racing goes. You'd have to say it's certainly one of the more popular as far as entrance is concerned. Tons of cars out there. Josh Axford in the Escort, Kirk Davis in the Mazda RX-2, Adam Bressington in the Cooper S, who has been absolutely massive in that car over the last 12 months or so. Evan Goebel, the Holden Tirana XU1. Mark Tassari in that magnificent HQ Monaro. Love seeing the Holden equipment still getting out there. Gary Finnemore, fantastic to have the Get Exposed guy himself from Metro Mix, the guy in the Ford Mustang Coupe there in the grey and black. Mark Wallace in the Cortina, Liam Reed in a Cortina. The winner of last year's big touring car race, the 50K event last year, Peter McNiven, is back in that RX2, and it looks meaner, faster and screamier than it ever has been before. That 12A rotary is absolutely wound up, and I can tell you he's not going to be alone in the RX2s here this year. Steve Pillikers in the GTR as well. Glenn Miles in the Valiant Charger. Cool to see that car making its way out on track. Adrian Moyle, now he is in the purple Mazda RX-2, which we had enjoyed over the last few seasons with Darren Hossack at the wheel. Multiple Australian national class champion across supercars, sports sedans, and ex-supercar racer. He's jumped out of that car now, and Adrian Moyle will be in it, and it has had some demon tweaks over the last 6 months or so operated on that car. Graham Hill in the Morris Cooper S, and Graham is an absolute jet around here. He even heads down to Phillip Island to try and take it up to the Monaros, the Camaros, the Mustangs, etc., for those events down there. So watch out for Graham Hill. We're not going to get any bad rain, so the Minis aren't going to be able to use that aspect of their package and be super fast. The likes of Len Reed jump to mind, Ted Brewster. Those sort of names jump to mind that were just immense against the likes of John Mann and those cohorts back in that era. Sort of thinking maybe 15, 20 years ago, could even be 30 years ago if I really, to be honest with myself. David Noakes in the RS 1600 as the cleanup continues from the regularity out there. Then we jump down to Brad Tilley. Now, this was a car last year that, for all intents and purposes, was up for the win. But I tell you what, that drive by McNiven, it was immense. And in the closing stages of the race, as Aaron Noonan and Mark Walker alluded to in their podcast this week, when the tyres are sad, the gearbox is sad, the brakes are sad, and the drivers are getting sad because the tyres, gearbox, and brakes are sad, they started to fall off. But I tell you what, Brad Tilley wheels that Mustang massively. Rod Evans in another Cortina. Don Knight in the Mark 1 Cortina GT. And he is in car number 32. Looking forward to see how Don can get out there. A guy that every time you open the gates and throw on an NC race or N race is having a go at it. Richard Fairlamb. I've got to say, there's a guy down there in the sports sedan field, in the older sports sedans, with a magnificent yellow A30, Austin A30, which is just a beautiful racing car. Was dinged up by his son at a hill climb, and Richard Fairlamb has done some fettling with an English wheel or something like that. Amazing job to get that back out there. But Richard Fairlamb is in the HQ. And he's an amazing craftsman in helping some of the other competitors get their dinged-up cars back out there on track. Steve McKay in the Cooper S. Craig Miles in the RT E49 Charger. McKay in the Morris Cooper. Dean McLaughlin in the 1600. Mark Leinster in the Cortina. Peter Vermeulen. Now watch this guy, the very, very menacing Matt Black magnificent looking Mustang. In fact, it's probably, I'll probably put John Mann just above his old pony car. But I tell you what, this one is just how you want your Mustang to look. The 1965 Pony Boy Mustang with Peter Mullerman at the wheel. Great bloke, has been off. He's done a lot of work to that car, as you're allowed to do within the regulations, and done some renewal stuff, and all within the period suggesting these cars. But at the end of the day, he went, there's not much more I can do to this car. I've got to get the guy behind the wheel to work better. First of all, I said to him, give me the keys, I'll show you how to do it, Pete. But he said, no, I'm going to go and get some driver coaching. So he did that. Watch out for Pete Mullerman in the number 43. Pete Olver in the Lotus Ford Cortina, looking forward to that. Bill Trengover, guy that races very, very regularly across the Trico Victorian State Circuit Racing Series. Looking forward to see how Bill goes in his Ford Mustang, the red car. It will be up the front somewhere. Victor Draper, the Datsun 1600. These things, I don't know too many people of my era. I'm not going to give it away, but a lot of my mates started off their racing and even their on-road antics in a Datsun 1600, little 4 doors or a 2-door 510 if you're lucky to import one from the States or something like that. Jeff Munday, another guy, very regular racer on the Trico Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships in historic touring cars in his Chevy Camaro 5.8 litre. That car will be near to the front. The next car on the synonymous with Victorian historic touring car racing is Jeff Munday in his orange Chevrolet Corvette, a guy we see doing laps all year long again in the Victorian historic touring cars around the traps. Michael Maselli is the next one, the number 69 Ford Mustang. Michelli is synonymous again with this sort of type of touring cars. Anthony Green, another Mark I Cortina, is out there. Rob Burns, the Chevrolet Camaro. Phil Barrow, Holden FJ. That's really harking back more to an Appendix J type of era of that group. Dave Brown, a guy from Brown Davis Roll Cages, amongst many other fantastic products. Dave Brown in his 1600 Triple S. And Dave does a terrific job of that. Had a bit of an issue earlier on this year at Phillip Island, where did a bit of damage to that 1600. But it is one of those cars that you can just any time of day walk up to it, and it's magnificent. White with the orange stripe on it, and the sun just glistens off it. Gordon Cox in the Cortina. Christian Janicki in the Morris Cooper S. Dom Leo in the Mark I Mustang. Great to see Dominic Leo back at the track, the 5-litre Mustang there as well. John Harrison in the Mark I Ford Cortina. Chris Stern in the Mustang Trans Am. John Clark Mustang. Les Walmsley, great to have Les in the field as well. A Ford Mark I Cortina. Dave Murphy in the Tirana, and Jeff Bowe. Paul Gilbert rounding out the field in the Datsun 1600. We've still got some cleanups going out on the Winton Motor Raceway, but we're not too far away from seeing this qualifying session. I know the programs out there say this is a race for the Group N's. They're all in pit lane now, ready to go. So all we're waiting for is the clearance from the recovery and cleanup crews, the Winton Motor Raceway safety crew and cleanup crew working very, very hard down there. We can see they've got the jet blaster down there to get rid of the oil down, or the kitty litter, whatever you want to call it, that soaks up the oil, the sawdust off the track. So that's getting a really good clean on the run between turns 9 and 10. I'm going to say show how long I've been around. The new bit of the track, if you like, from 10-11 and down past the new pit area. Because to me the pits are still just opposite the old control tower near the canteen. So and you look at that, that's a tiny little pit area, and we used to put 30 cars in there in the Winton 300 Group E days. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be back with Darren Knight, who will be making his way up from the paddock area with the Group N's, and we'll be back on air in just a few moments with qualifying for these cars. They're getting themselves ready in the lane. Group N historic touring cars making their way out on track now. And if you've just made your way back from one of the big attractions, of course, the car show going on in the background behind the old main straight area, fantastic place to visit. But I've got to say, get yourself back down and squash yourselves up against the window, and I reckon we're about to see the koalas even wake up and have a bit of a look over at the Group N cars as they head around now for their qualifying session. I'm Darren Smith. I'll be with you all weekend long, and I would like to welcome in one of Motorsport's nicest guys, but can get a bit grumpy, so I've got to be careful. I do share the airwaves with him, and he's giving me the international signal for one more thank you, bartender. Darren Knight, welcome to the 2025 Winton Festival of Speed.
Good afternoon, Darren. Good afternoon, everyone out there watching us on the V8 Sleuth YouTube channel. Live streaming here at the Winton Festival of Speed. Thank you very much for that very courteous welcome to Darren. Unfortunately, the qualifying session that was meant to happen for Group N historic touring cars this morning was termed null and void. No one got in more than 1 or 2 laps. You need to do 3 laps for the session to count. We had a red flag. Unfortunately, the Mark Lenstra Mark 1 Cortina blew up comprehensively at the end of the old front straight. Now has a ventilated sump and a lot of oil onto the track and engine components, so unfortunately the red flags came out. So now this will be the sole qualifying session for Group N historic touring cars. 15 minutes for the guys to put down a quick lap. They're being bunched up at the moment, which is great, letting this massive field onto the circuit. We saw this morning cars were still coming out of the pit lane when guys were trying to put together a quick lap. So bunching them up now, so now everyone is safely onto the racing surface, and they'll try and post a quick lap, which will not be easy if you find yourself a little bit further down in the order with this massive 41 car field, Darren.
Yeah, it is. It's at some point, Darren, you've got to be a victim of your own popularity, don't you? And what that transpires as is a very full racetrack to try and qualify on, isn't it?
Yep, well, that's motor racing, as they say. So if you're good enough, you'll find a hole. But, of course, no racing during qualifying, but sometimes people forget that. And there might be a little bit of toing and froing. So let's see how they go. But getting a clear lap is a challenge when the field is this big on the tight confines of Winton Motor Raceway. So Brad Tilley in the number 28 white and blue Ford Mustang leading the pack at the moment. The Tilley family have been involved in historic touring cars for many, many years. Now, of course, we're into our third generation of Tilleys behind the wheel, with Jamie Tilley having a steer now and again. Not in the car this weekend, so now it's Dad Brad behind the wheel. Not very many models have missed out entering this weekend. Huge variance in brands and makes and models, which has always been one of the hallmarks of historic touring cars.
Just harking back to exactly 12 months ago here, Darren, Brad Tilley in the Mustang, and in my opening diatribe there about the field was that he ran that very important 50k race, which is really the feature race of this weekend for the Group N cars. He led it, and he led it very, very well. But certainly in qualifying, a 1:34.24 was what Brad Tilley did last year. Adrian Moyle went, whilst he was at the wheel of a Chevrolet Camaro, did a 1:35.66. Adam Walton, the New South Wales racer, in his Mustang did a 1:36.1. Peter McNiven, who ultimately won that all-important race last year, Daz, was qualified 4th. And I know I was quite amazed, let alone the historic touring car fraternity, that a Mazda had made its way onto the second row of the grid there. But it was an amazing run there, and I think just looking at Peter's car here this morning, there is every intention that he's going to try and qualify that better than 4th here this weekend. The car looks like it's had about 20 millimetres of ride height taken out of it, The stance on it is more aggressive than it's ever been. So it's going to be interesting to see. And he's already found himself a nice bit of track right in behind Brad Tilley.
Yeah, Peter McNiven, you mentioned a great win in the 50k race last year when Brad Tilley unfortunately ran out of brakes coming out of the S's, and the Mustang became a bit of a Paris-Dakar machine there for a bit, going over the yumps on the infield there, so very disappointing there for Brad, but what a fantastic drive from Peter McNiven to take the win in that Mazda. He is certainly one to watch. Had a very good performance at the Mallala All-Historic meeting back in April this year before he was unfortunately tagged by a local Falcon. So he's just, as Darren mentioned, right behind the white Mustang of Brad Tilley. So certainly has some clear air, and we'll be looking to see some very quick times from the number 13 two-door RX2.
Great to see the Monaro Coupe there in the mix too, just pushing at the front of that field there, and car number 8 there it is at the moment too. So he's Mark Tassari, done a 137, just crossed the line of 137, so cementing himself quite nicely into P2 at the moment.
Mark shares the driving duties of that car with brother David. There he is on screen, the big number 8 HQ Monaro 350 Chev power under the bonnet. This is a Group NC car.
Working pretty hard there too. We can see I'm going to say their light grey driver's gloves gives us great advantage, isn't it? Looking in the window, those fans that are just sort of near the flagpoint heading into turn 3. For those old enough, the old turn 1, we can actually see the hands up on the top of the wheel. The corner goes right, but the hands were turning left. That's dealing with horsepower and oversteer.
And historic touring car usual stance.
It is, yes, it's exactly right. Look, Darren, I alluded earlier on in the broadcast that a lot of these cars are actually seeing horsepower that they never saw back 50 years ago, 45 years ago. The machining technology, the gasket technology, the tuning technology has moved these cars well out of the bracket that they originally raced in.
Certainly, and the RX2 is certainly one of the benefactors of better engine technology. Engine seals, of course, rotor seals were always the bugbear of the Mazdas back in the day. Pretty much sorted that out now with the modern machining and materials we have at our disposal. 289 Windsor-powered Mustangs are now getting in excess of 500 horsepower, which they got nowhere near back in the day.
Yeah, they were talking 360, 370 horsepower to win an Australian Touring Car Championship race, weren't they?
They certainly were. So these cars don't have to have an actual race history. So the class is basically made up of a set of rules to replicate racing prior to 1972. So you can't go putting fuel injection on a car that never had it. So you basically have to run it to the sort of specs that the cars ran back in the day. You are allowed to substitute brakes for some brakes that fit it. So Volvo calipers are quite popular among many of the runners, Capri calipers on the Cortinas. So it's basically period modifications up until the end of 1972.
So we also have seen over the time, interestingly, some Capris that you just mentioned, the brakes on those cars. They ran very, very strongly. The early Capris did very, very well. In fact, there's a red one that was floating around for a couple of seasons with Laurie Nelson at the wheel, the Capri Components man himself. Stepped back into the wheel later in life and did very, very well indeed in a Capri. Just looking here at the different iterations and class cars, because let's face it, you'd head off to the likes of the Armstrong 500 or the Gallagher 500 at Phillip Island, and then later on, of course, the Bathurst 1000 events, and there was multiple classes, and they're still being represented in this sort of racing now.
Most definitely. Phil Barrow on screen, the number 72 FJ Holden. If you want to know what enthusiasm looks like, just go up and talk to Phil Barrow. He just loves this class of car. This model in particular, his father raced an FJ Holden back in the day, so very much an early model Holden family are the Barrows. Puts him some amazing performances in that FJ and likes going Cortina hunting, as he likes to call it.
Now, this is a bona fide Appendix J car too, isn't it?
It's built to replicate a car that his father ran back in the day.
Yep.
Michael Michelli on screen in the number 69 model Ford Fastback Mustang. Good to see Michelli back behind the wheels. Been out of the saddle for a couple of years. Been touring around Australia doing the grey nomad thing, even though he's not grey.
He's sitting in position number 9, and interestingly enough, between him and the front row of the grid is Brad Tilley and Peter McNiven, the guys that both led that race. Just watching the Humpy pull into the midfield there, Darren, just on screen. So the car we were just touching on is parking up very much out of harm's way.
Classic commentator's kiss of death, that one, unfortunately. Sorry about that, Phil. Hopefully nothing too serious.
I don't think it'll dampen his enthusiasm.
Oh, definitely not. He'll be out in the spanners as soon as this session is over. So Brad Tilley fastest at the moment, a 136.6. Peter McNiven in the RX2 is second quickest, a 137.6. And Michelli, third fastest in his return to racing, a 138.4.
Couple of cars that have gone to the pits significantly in the top 10. Monday has gone in, and Murphy, Adrian Moyle's gone in his debut in the purple car, and Dominic Leo has gone into the pits there as well. So a couple of cars that I alluded to before they hit the track that were going to be probably a threat and be pretty quick. Just having a look at a couple of these unders cars here as well, heading around through turn 3 and turn 4, carrying the speed through that turn 4 layout. Used to be a whole lot more of a right angle down there, and we're just getting a good look at the side-on shot of the 21 Mini there of Graham Hill, who I talked up before this. He's a rapid racer, does not mind throwing it down between a Mustang and a Camaro if he can get with them maybe in some damper conditions. Here's the David Brown car, the Datsun 1600 with the orange stripes over the top, and it was dinged up pretty bad coming out of Siberia at the Phillip Island Classic earlier on this year. Great to see it all put back together and in true Brown Davis fashion, put together magnificently.
One of the quickest four-cylinder historic touring cars in the country is the David Brown 1600, so that'll definitely be a car to watch. A few 1600s in the pack this weekend, which is great to see. Vic Draper out there in his blue machine, Dean McLaughlin, his grey machine.
Right in the middle there, there's Pete Muleman. I mentioned to you the all black. The only thing that's not black is the N and the 43 on the side, which is a nice contrast. It's in white as he puts the power down. And this guy had, for a couple of seasons, was concentrating on the betterment of the equipment, but in the last 12 months has given himself the big focus, given himself the under the microscope treatment in fitness, and done some driver coaching at one of the more famous driver coaching facilities here in Australia. So he's driving very, very nicely.
And a three-time club champion for historic touring cars in Victoria. So Pete Muleman, definitely one of the quicker pre-65 cars in the country. They all black Mustang number 43, the first generation shape Mustang. Trusty little 289 Windsor under the bonnet. Really has that car sorted out well, and he never stops working on it. He's always under the car himself, has a couple of helpers, but never stops working it. Sometimes guys take a little bit easy with the prep. That is definitely not Peter Muleman.
Flowing it nicely through turn 3 up to 4, a little dab of the brakes just to control the car, settle it for the turn into the corner. Beautiful bit of racetrack laying out in front of him now. The sweeper, the famous sweeper here at Winton. It's famous because of the action that goes on there. It's famous for the challenge that it throws the drivers, because right about now you are really wrestling a car that's gone around a very fast left-hander. You've got to get it over to the other side of the track and then wrestle it all the way down into what is the water tower down at turn 7, 8 and then 9, which over the years many commentators have called it the cleavage down there, and it gets the power down out past the GMSV sign.
We can still say that in that time slot, can't we, Darren?
We can, of course.
So Brad Tilley still the quickest man out there with just under 1 minute to go in this sole qualifying session for historic touring cars. Mark Tassari has now jumped up to second quickest in the number 8 HQ Monaro, a 137.6 for Tassari. So he's knocked McNiven back to third. Michelli's fourth. Chris Stern, a good performance in his first race in 2 years in the number 90 Ford Mustang. On screen we have Graham Hill, the number 21 Cooper S. Stephen McKay in the number 36 shell-coloured Mini Cooper S. Stephen McKay's owned that car for many, many years.
I got to say, this is how we're going to see these two all weekend long now, isn't it? They've found each other. Water finds its level, and these two have found each other out on track. Interestingly enough, car number 3, the RS 1600 Ford Escort in 6th place there. That is a really good lap, a 1:39.20.
Josh Axford, the South Australian, who's worried about getting caught in the pack in this qualifying session, but he's made short work of that. As Darren mentioned, 6th fastest in the little BDA-powered Escort number 3.
So that is a ripper there. Couple of cars there that are really batting above their numbers. They'd love to see the fact that the 43 of Mullerman, the 68 of Monday, even Miles in the Charger there as well. The 27 of David Noakes is another Ford Escort. So, wow, the Escorts are finding the tune nicely early this weekend in qualifying, getting themselves inside that top 10, top 15 area. Gary Finnemore has headed to the pits in number 9, fastest, 12th fastest there on track in his Ford Mustang Coupe. Another guy that is absolutely one of the great blokes around Victorian motorsport, Gary Finnemore. Took on the old Eddie Obanika fastback in the Vic V8 series, and just loves going racing with this Mustang as well. So he's found himself into 12th position as the checkered flag falls on qualifying there. Daz, short, sharp 16-minute qualifying session for our Group N's.
Still a few cars circulating, but it looks like Brad Tilley will start out of pole position for tomorrow's first race for Group N Historic Touring Cars. That'll be around 9:15 a.m. and we'll be live on the V8 Sleuth YouTube channel, so make sure you tune in for race 1 for these guys tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. and he will start alongside Mark Tassari. So Ford versus Holden, the front row of the grid of Historic Touring Cars. Peter McNiven, great drive in the little Mazda, 3rd quickest, and he'll start alongside Michael Michelli. He'll be pleased with that performance. Michelli, the number 69 Ford Mustang. Chris Stern will be 5th, and he'll start alongside the man Darren just mentioned, Josh Axford, the South Australian in the BDA Escort number 3. 4th row of the grid will be Adam Bressington in the first of the Cooper S's. Adam has had some fantastic performances here at Winton the last couple of years, so keep an eye on Bresso, the former TCM racer, the Cooper S number 6, and he'll start alongside Pete Muhlman in the number 43 all black Mustang. Jeff Mundy and Glenn Miles, I beg your pardon, in the Charger, so they round out the top 10. Good to see a Charger up into the top 10, Darren.
Yeah, certainly. We obviously saw for many years the Chargers were in this era of Australian touring car racing. Good to see one being represented there as well, as they have done, with the likes of Trevor Talbot and various others over the recent years. Finnemore, Pillikers in there, Brown in his Datsun in there as well. So plenty of things going on there as well. That sees the end of the qualifying session for the Group N. The Heritage Touring Cars and Invited will be the next cars on track for their first race for the weekend. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. We'll have a look at the grid for those cars.
I knew she was the one. The heart's going a million miles an hour, the mouth's dry. It's love, mate. Pure and simple. In '71, this was the fastest four-door car in the world. Back then, you could pick one up for a bit over $4,000. Insurance, it's got to be Shannon's.
No one knows your passion like Shannon's. And with our multi-vehicle discount, you can even cover your daily drive. So call Shannon's on 13 46 46. Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the Heritage Touring Cars and Invited. I'll leave you up to work out which are the invited ones, but this is a really good bunch of race cars to get together. Darren Knight has stayed with me. Let's get a look at this grid sheet because we've got 25 cars to get through, Daz. Let's see how they head out on track.
Elliot Barber, the Apex Hunter himself. He'll start out of pole position. He is guest steering the Kerry McMahon-owned Yellow Pages Group C RX-7. That car is for sale, folks. So come down to the pits if you're interested to get into the sharp end of Heritage Touring Cars. So Elliot Barber guest steering that car this weekend. Got pole this morning over Chris Stillwell in the ex-Colin Bond Caltex Sierra. Number 47, Travis Schumack, the Michelin man himself, in one of the invited cars. You mentioned that before, Darren. That's a super touring car, the BMW number 45, joining the Group C and Group A machines this weekend. And next is Adrian Alessi in the number 40 Walkinshaw Commodore, the VL, the Batmobile. Adrian has a couple of cars he's been running with Heritage Touring Cars for many years, and one of the quickest Commodores in the country. Hopefully David Toe gets out there. He's having some issues there. He is right at the back of the pack. He qualified just, he will start alongside Alessi, but was very slow away in the dummy grid. So hopefully David will sort that issue out before they get to the start. Rolling start for Heritage Touring Cars. Didn't see that much in Australia, but back in Group A days in Europe, rolling starts were the order of the day. A lot easier on the driveline of these very precious machines. Just lining up behind the pace car now. Glenn Gerstle was next, fastest after David Toe. Steve Exisa in Scotty Kennedy VC Group C Commodore, number 69. Glenn Gerstle is next, and another Commodore, Anthony Tencardi in the number 22 Commodore. Justin Nielsen in that fearsome little Nissan Exa, Pulsar Exa, the little two-door front-wheel drive turbocharged machine. And Darren, that thing eats CV shafts, drive shafts for breakfast.
It eats pretty much everything in front of it too. It's a rapid piece of kit. I cast my mind back, Christine Gibson, etc., punting those cars around the big dance at Bathurst there in the day. But certainly these cars, really looking forward to seeing that one right there, car number 44, the JPS John Player Special, and the 43. Wow, when you've got a couple of those cars, Pete Siveris, hey, in that Bob Jane T-Marts VK out there as well. That's some pretty special pieces of kit. Lucky to have them here. Boy, they are absolutely being bunched up. They're getting very close to let go. They've been let go, and it's a charge down to turn one. Of course, the RX-7 gets gazumped by the 5-litre power of the Walkinshaw Commodore right alongside, as Chris Stillwell doesn't want any of that. Gets blocked off very, very nicely there by Adrian Holloway, and he will lead it down there.
What a start from Adrian Alessi in the VL Walkinshaw. Started third on the grid. He basically ambushed Elliot Barber and Chris Stillwell, and now leads the pack as they head around the sweeper for the first time.
Elliot Barber just getting out of a Trans Am car, getting into one of these nimble, high-revving RX-7s, throws it down the inside there. He's going to get pretty lively with this. This car is for sale. I reckon he's been on board to show what it can do. And have a look at Elliott. He is just throwing it at it. A very, very experienced racer. And, well, media identity these days with Scotty Pye and their podcast, which is getting great attention. They're not shying away from the big issues and questions. And that RX-7, they never drove away from the 5-litre cars like that in the day.
They certainly did handle well, though,
Yes,
and
they
certainly used the very nimble nature of the Mazda to drive around the outside of Adrian Ellis as they went through the cleavage. So can the V8 fight back? Chris Dilwell third in the turbocharged Ford Sierra. Trevor Schumacher up there as well in the BMW Super Tourer. Carl Muller has rotated the ex-Laurie Nelson Ford Capri, the Group C machine.
All side by side across the line they go. Nothing short of cubic inches, but nothing short of bravery as the Yellow Pages RX-7's been driven like it hasn't been driven for a couple of decades. Stillwell in the background there. Then it is the VH of Axisa, Trevor Schumacher in the Super Tourer. But it is Elliott at the moment. Gotta love those flames. That's going to burn all of the muffler linings out before the end of the weekend.
Next, Tony Kavich, Phil Alexander machine from Bathurst in 1984, getting very sideways as he puts a little rotary into the tight confines of Winton. Trying to put a bit of a break now on Adrian Allisey, who has his mirror full of the Caltech Sierra of Chris Stillwell.
When you look at it, it's only a 15-minute race. You're not going to be concerned about preserving tyres or anything, are you? You're going to throw absolutely everything at it. Axisa doing a brilliant job there as well. Schumacher coming around there also, so doing a nice job. The Soundwave Commodore 10K Gerstle. Trent Harrison weighing in there as well in the old Bond yellow Alfa Romeo, just appearing on the back of the screen there as well. So he's had quite a few drives in that car over the years and landing himself inside the top 10 quite nicely. Justin Nilsson, he's in there. There's that Lexa. Turn up the wick, and that's what you got to do with one of those turbo cars. Ducking in behind that beautiful little E30 M3. Even you being a Ford Mustang guy, you must like those things.
I like all of them, Daz. All of absolutely magnificent motor cars. These are the genuine article, folks. We've earlier seen some fantastic looking tributes, but these are the actual cars, so they are built and restored to exact specs of the day. You need to pick a year. A lot of these cars had long competition lives, so you need to pick a year or meeting and present the car in the livery and also in that mechanical specification that you nominate.
Chris Stillwell has been synonymous with peddling this this ex-Bond Caltex car very, very hard historically. Here we go here. Now this, I got to say, I used to love a Sunday afternoon in the first weekend of October and see that car on screen.
Tony Sawford in the ex-Alan Grice A9X hatchback. Tony, another long-time campaigner in Group C Heritage Touring Cars, was actually running this car around when there was no Group C as an official category. He's been with the scene for that long. It's amazing we've still got an Alan Grice car that survives. He had a few offs over the journey, did Grice.
And he drove an array of equipment. You know, started off out of Western Sydney with an RX-3 in these colours, continued on into the Commodore era in these colours. Of course, he famously had the Foster's Oldsmobile at the Thunderdome, and off to the US here. Justin Nilsson coming through a cloud of smoke there. Not sure who's dealt that out there. I don't think it was Justin, in fact. I'm going to hope it wasn't. That guy needs a good clear run to with that car. But I'm getting a good look at this magnificent bonnet bulge on the A9X Tirana, doing a brilliant job. And we do have here this weekend also another four-door A9X, which wasn't really raced a whole lot of. There's at least one, and Tabitha Ambrose is driving that here this weekend. There's Trent Harrison in the number 77 Alfa Romeo.
The Harrison family synonymous with Alpha products, of course. Hugh Harrison and now Trent behind the wheel, and this car raced here all those years ago, 40 years ago. Round one of the Australian Touring Car Championship was right here at Winton, the very first round for the Group A formula. And this car, of course, driven by Colin Bond and Alan Jones, was his teammate, and they certainly did their best up against some pretty stern turbocharged and V8 powered opposition.
This is a car I referred to early on in the day. Prepared by Frank Lowndes there. Yeah, that's Craig's dad, and he certainly showed Craig the right way to go in his career, but he was certainly the right engine man for Rod Stevens and Jamie Cartwright all those years ago. In fact, I had some dinner with some guys that worked on this car, know it very, very intimately last night, and some of the stories that come out, you can't use them on not on a PA broadcast, let alone a live stream either, but certainly when the rules were exercised, they were exercised in the darkness of night, and you could pretty much envelope this whole world of motorsport in that saying. Race lead change.
Barber's still leading.
Second place.
Yeah, the battle for second place. Chris Dewell having to work very hard to keep out that big Walkinshaw of Adrian Alesi. So battle's going right through the pack. On screen here is Stewell and Alesi.
Glenn Gerstel's doing nicely as well. Got a spot off the line there over the 22 of Anthony Tenkate. Anthony's gone back a spot. Gerstel up. Trent Harrison has gone up a spot. Nielsen has succumbed to Toe, who's coming back through the field. That's a good drive. Didn't see that one actually happening. Coming now into position number 9 is the number 44.
David had some pad knock-off for the brakes in qualifying this morning, so not 100% match fit the BMW at the moment, but it's not going to stop David from trying. A very motivated campaigner there, and he's trying to get past that alpha of Trent Harrison as Elliot Barber continues to lead in the RX-7.
Doing a nice job too, isn't he? Just got himself a nice lead. Set the fastest lap of the race, and he's head and shoulders faster than anyone else at a 1:31.45. The next best is a 33 dead, so he's got a second and a half on the field in that magnificent yellow Pages car. Storming across the line, there's Exisa, hanging on nicely, sort of having a bit of a race in his own there, in fact, at the moment, and charging up the straight in the number 69 car. Good shot on the rear end there of something that we saw a lot of in the era in the Sierras, and that was that smoke belching out the exhaust. You thought that was the end for them, but it was they just pumped the fuel through so they could keep them cool, and that's what we're seeing now, that sort of that grey browny sort of exhaust smoke.
Quite amazing motor car, the Sierras, towards the end of their competition live in Group A. They were approaching 600 horsepower. Trying to run that through a 9-inch wide wheel. It's pretty hard.
They were beasts, really. You talk to any of the drivers, and I've alluded to John Bauer, who's racing in Europe this weekend in his Volvo, which he won a lot of races in the Australian Touring Car Championship, was very fast with Dick Johnson. In fact, Dick Johnson Racing was really anointed as the best of the Sierras. It took a few years to do it, but when they bought it all in-house and they built a race car, they took it to anyone easily in the world, and there was some heavy hitters, wasn't there, in Sierras?
Well, of course, DJR were dominating the Silverstone TT all those years ago and showing the rest of the world how to make a fast Sierra, and unfortunately the 20-cent part let go, but they certainly showed the speed that their cars produced here in Australia. Good battle here between Cole Spender, little twin cam Escort, number 51, Derek Wickett just ahead of him in, I guess, the machine that replaced the Mark 1 Escort. That's a Mark 2 Escort, as Darren mentioned before, originally prepared by Frank Lowndes, who certainly knows his way around a small Ford.
Knows his way around a whole lot of stuff, Frank Lowndes. Very much a technical car used through CAMS and Motorsport Australia. This is a shame. This is a car parked off on the side of the track, the number 17. And if you were alive in 1983, that car went off the road into a tree.
That's the car that replaced that car.
That's right. This is the Morris Jones car, I think it was, that they commandeered, or have I got that wrong? Because it came onto the grid and the paint was still wet on it. They didn't rebuild the Green's Tough car like that legend says.
That went to Sims Metal in the Sky, that one.
It did. It was a deal done late in the afternoon to get back on track. Car number 43 out on track now. This is Howe, currently sitting 11th with a 1:38.7379. This car represented, if you were neither a Ford or a Holden man, most people couldn't find themselves to go for a Volvo. Jim Richards in this car was the next guy, wasn't he? He was sort of like the Melbourne Football Club. You had your own team, and then there was Melbourne that were your second team. And you only barracked for Melbourne, so your mate's dad, who had the Range Rover, could take you to the snow when the footy got bad. Checkered flag.
Race win for Elliot Barber in the Yellow Pages RX-7. That car is for sale, folks, so no better way to get into Heritage Touring Cars than buying a race winner. Good job from Elliot. Chris Delwell was second in the Ford Sierra. Adrian Allisey third for the Holden fans, and there's plenty of them out there, I'm sure, cheering on the VL Walkinshaw of Allisey, and he beat home the earlier VH Commodore of Steve Axisa. Trevor Schumacher was next in the BMW Super Tourer. Then Glenn Gerstle, Group C Commodore, Anthony Tencardi, and another Group C Commodore. Trent Harrison, 8th in the Alpha, held out Justin Nilsson in the little Nissan Pulsar Exa Turbo. Don Dimitriades rounded out the top 10 in his Lansvale Smash Repairs Walkinshaw, very famous name, of course, the Lansvale boys.
Dean Howe was the next one across the line in the number 43, just outside the top 10. Dean in the that magnificent 635 CSI, the JPS liveried entry, so that rounds out our top 10. We then go down to Pete Zibris in the number 62. Pete got across the line, pretty much left to all his own devices, in fact, in that race, so he's done that job. In fact, I think it's Chris at the wheel of that car. Anyway, we'll confirm that. I'll get that information right. The number 6 car getting across the line there. That was Pete Zibris in the BK. So I think it must be Chris in the other one there. So a bit of father-son type of action on track there. Spender, Wicket, Bood, and Addison rounded out, and some DNFs there as well.
David Toe unfortunately failed to finish, as did Scott Robinson in the little 325 BMW. So hopefully they'll get the car fixed. Curry was unfortunately a DNF in the replacement Greens Tough Falcon. Looks like he had a flat tyre actually on the rear of the Big Fat XE, so hopefully they'll get some more rubber on that car for their next race, which will be this afternoon around 4:05. So make sure you are glued to the old VH Sleuth YouTube channel for the next race for Heritage Touring Cars around 4:05 this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Darren Knight, for lending us all your expertise and insights for the last couple of races. We'll release you into the wild, and you can find out all the goings on in and out of the back of the pit and paddock. Formula Ford cars are getting themselves set at pit exit. I'm going to take a quick break. We're hoping that young Tom Reed joins us for this one for the Formula Fords. We'll be back in just a moment once we get our breath. Hope you're enjoying the sunshine here locally at the Winton Motor Raceway. RX-7 throws it down the inside there. He's going to get pretty lively with this. This car is for sale. I reckon he's been on board to show what it can do. And have a look at Elliot. He is just throwing at it. A very, very experienced racer. And, well, media identity these days with Scotty Pye and their podcast, which is getting great attention. They're not shying away from the big issues and questions. And that RX-7, they never drove a...
From an early age, I knew some cars were a statement of style and elegance.
I've been a motoring enthusiast all my life.
My life is hot rods, designing them, building them, and racing.
My Coupe 4 is rare and very special.
Beautiful, handcrafted, proper works of art.
This is my most prized possession.
Insurance? Shannon's, of course.
Welcome back to the 2025 Winton Festival of Speed. A massive program already. Regularity for tribute cars and the standard regularity, Group N and invited, historic touring cars and invited. And one of the categories that internationally has a reputation of cut and thrust, and nothing has really changed. We still see the modern day Formula Ford in the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championships and indeed the National Series for Formula Ford take that sort of role. Let me tell you, there's some of the guys that used to do this in the Driver to Europe series and in the early 2000s still doing this sort of racing out on track now. We saw early on in the regularity when we made a big fuss about young Tom Reed in the regularity making his debut on track. Well, that's twice. That's two Winton Festival of Speeds that Tom, you've debuted. Last year you debuted as a commentator. This year you've debuted as a driver. You're organising yourself pretty well, mate.
Good afternoon, Darren. Good afternoon, everyone at home and at the track. Yeah, I'm loving it. Loving my first go in regularity driving a Formula Ford. It's been a blast. Massive thanks to Chris Davison for making it all happen. But now we turn our attention to the main category, the racing category of Formula Ford, and it's a bumper field of about 26 cars.
It certainly is. The Formula Fords have done some great racing over the time. Jack Clifford and Nick McBride sit right across the front row of this grid, and they will certainly turn it on. Nick McBride, we know from his time in the Carrera Cup Porsche front end of the field, a guy that's a serious racer, no matter what you look at, has turned to historic Formula Ford for a good bit of running. Pole position to Jack Clifford, another name that we know very well in Victorian Formula Ford, Formula V racing. Will Faulkner out of P3, your old man in car number 15, Andrew Reid. A long time racer in Formula Ford and great success. They even touched on it in the V8 Sleuth podcast leading up to this weekend with your old man mentioned there. Tom, how's he going? He's enjoying the sunshine?
Yeah, he's enjoying it. We're excited for a nice clean weekend. He did a personal best this morning in qualifying, broke the 31-second bracket. And yeah, he's looking forward to a good start off P3.
I tell you what, he's got a guy that knows how to win races. In fact, two of them right behind him, Richard Davison and Andrew McGuinness, fearsome competitors. Andrew Torty out of 8th, the Queenslander, done some travelling. Grant Walker's awesome too, out of 9.
So set for a start soon. We should get a green flag at the rear of the field. The 5-second board has just been displayed. Red lights flashing.
Delayed.
Aborted start.
Start delayed. Well, we will press on through the field. We got to Grant Walker out of position number 7, then Andrew Torty, the Queenslander, Neil Richardson, Malcolm Osler, who is turning a couple of duties here this week, and I think he's probably doing it in the same car actually, was doing regularity. Glenn Woodford there, Sean Whelan, Evan Farrell, Bryce Rogers out of position 15. The man himself out of Equity 1 is starting out of position number 15. We've got a race start, and they all get away very, very nicely indeed. So Dean Kutsamidis, car number 12 out of 15. Keep an eye on the Equity 1 car as they come into turn 1.
So your leader is Jack Clifford, down into turn 3, Nick McBride just behind him, and then Andrew Reid in P3, McGuinness 4th, Will Faulkner, then Richard Davison as they funnel their way nice and cleanly through the opening sector of the lap. Richard McQuire back there in car 23 behind, back to the leaders, and Clifford has already stretched out a gap on the first lap, but watch for Nick McBride coming through the field. He will look to close that gap with 9 minutes remaining on the schedule.
Short, sharp journey for Formula Fords. This is good. They're good for this sort of journey. It is all about making every corner count. There's not really an opportunity to sit back and feel out your fellow competitors. What there is for us is just a veritable treasure trove of Formula Ford spinner.
Car off at the sweeper, Sean Whelan from South Australia in his RF89 Van Diemen. Will Faulkner has lost the nose cone as well on his yellow car, so that would have happened throughout the first sector there. Back throughout the field, having a look at Eric Bellamy there, and back to the leaders, Reid right out wide, and it's already become a three-way breakaway at the front. Clifford leading still from McBride, squirming under brakes there. Reid following in 3rd, then McGuinness, Faulkner, Davison, Grant Walker, Andrew Torty, a pair of Swift DB1s, then Malcolm Osler, who is a very famous name in Australian and worldwide motorsport. Big battles going out throughout the field there with Dean Kutsamidis further on.
Jack Clifford in the Reynard 87F Formula Ford out there doing a nice job there, getting away very, very cleanly. And in fact, he's got himself a very, very nice lead for Formula Ford. That's acreage really out in front there at the moment. McBride, Reed started out of 3, holds on to 3. Andrew McGuinness in the number 2 car. He's got the Van Diemen RF 89, and anything during the 80s, if it didn't have an RF in front of it.
Sorry, but the leaders have just gone off through the sweeper, and there must be oil on the track as Clifford has just bowled a massive wide, allowed McBride to get through. Looking back here on shot, and there's definitely oil. They're all running off. Andrew Torty and his Swift runs off, and there's got to be an oil flag displayed somewhere throughout the field.
Not sure what's going on there. Definitely those cars were not in a position to spear off, but they're definitely just gone shooting up. Our race leader, in fact, Jack Clifford, has dropped all of those spots in his Swift, gone back 3 spots there. Reed, as you said, bowled a wide, ran very wide there. Would have been heart and mouth sort of stuff for Reed through there as we gather our thoughts down in turn number 10.
Cars are all over the place. It definitely seems like there is some sort of fluid on the ground throughout the track. Will Faulkner with a massive left front lock up. Unusual,
and missing the nose cone too.
Yeah, he's pulling into the pit, so he may be the person with the problem here.
That could be brake fluid with the front of the car off there. That's where the master cylinders sit in behind that safety crush area, if you like, at the front of the car.
So they'll have to be careful this time round. They would have felt the fluid on the road here. You can see how much they're sliding out of turn 2. There is definitely something on the road there, but back here at the leaders, McBride holding from Reed by about a second. The fastest lap time set by Nick McBride with a 34.9. Reed with a 35.5. Looking back there at Neil Richardson in his 89 Van Diemen.
Camera's trying to pick up to see if there is a slick around through the sweeper. They've managed to gather it all up now. I wonder if they've gone in there just a little bit hot, a little bit anxious to get this race underway, carrying a little bit too much speed. It is one of those corners, you arrive there and you go, wow, I'm going quicker than what I thought I was, and then you have to try and gather it all up to head back the other direction there, and everything inside the car is trying to push to the right, and you want to muscle it back over to the left. You would have felt that on a cold track this morning, Tom.
Yeah, definitely. It's a high commitment corner, and you can make a massive error if you overstep your marks a bit. Back through the field here, Eric Bellamy and Paul Faulkner. These guys are running in 14th and 15th. Paul Faulkner in a FA spec Van Diemen.
So we do have a couple of different eras of Formula Ford, FA, FB, FC, representing different age brackets for each of those categories for Formula Ford. So we do see some magnificent Elfins out there. John Baker in the Elfin 600 Formula Ford. What a thing of the 80s they were. Absolutely early 80s. You had to have yourself an Elfin 600. Matt Veal in an Eldon Mark 8, something that you don't see too much of. Malcolm Osler, of course, in the Lola, which was a very successful chassis worldwide, but nothing really in the eras that we're looking up here did quite what Van Diemen did in the Ralph Furman designed 86, 88, 89. McBride now just squirreling under a little bit of grip there. This is a Swift FB 89, so that's something a little bit different. Was a lot of them on the Australian scene going back then, and there was a lot of success with Swifts in the Australian Driver to Europe series, the Coca-Cola series, the TAA series, all of those different eras for the Driver to Europe series. As we get a great look down the side of Reed's car, and Andrew Reed there in the 15. Victorian racer, and certainly the linear bearings car was synonymous with Formula Ford for a long time with Andrew at the wheel.
This was the ex-Glenn Zampatti car, which he ran in 89, Australian-built RF89. Andrew, my dad, bought it in 1990, then sold it further on and purchased it back in 2006 in ruins, and we did a resto over COVID, and it's brought back to what we have now.
Certainly looks the goods. Just getting a good look at Jack Clifford there again, a Reynard 87F. The Reynard brand really cemented itself in Australia, not in Formula Ford, but in Formula Holden and Formula Brabham. The Reynard 90, 91, 92, right through to 94 chassis were the winningest of the chassis in that Gold Star phase of Australian open wheeler racing. But certainly the Van Diemen dominated, but the Reynard, which I was just touching on. Glenn Woodford is in a Reynard out there as well. This is the Royale. Chris O'Connor in the number 31, also out there burning around.
Oh, yeah, wow. It looked like a lot of fluid on the racetrack over it, down at the penultimate corner, taking a look further through the field, car 55.
That's the Eldon. The Eldon out there, the only Eldon, Matt Veal from Canberra. 1975 car. So we're reaching from cars that went right up to the 90s and going back to 1975, even further back 1970 in the Alphen 600 that Matty Scott's racing. Have a look at that. That is true period livery there. Looking almost like a Matic, actually, with Formula 5000 of the year, with the Seiko sticker on the front there for the number 55 of Matt Veal.
Car off at the sweeper, that is Neil Richardson, and he was running around about position 10 there, and he's gone off and rejoined the track onto the old back straight now. A shot throughout the field, that is Chris Rogers going through with Johnny Greig behind in his Reynard. The owner of that car, or sorry, Johnny's father-in-law, is the car that I'm driving in regularity, and he's doing a great job this weekend running around P12, qualified 15th, said he was happy with that, and he's chipping his way forward throughout the weekend.
How are you finding the physicality of the Formula Ford, Tom? You're a tall fella, and Formula Fords are, like Stephen Richards and Jason Bright, all those guys were kind of your height. How do you find yourself curling yourself up into them?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm overly tall, but for someone maybe over 6 foot,
I'm 6'3". You've got to be 6'8".
Oh, maybe. Yeah, but for someone of a taller stature, over 6 foot, it would be a little bit of a struggle to fit in. Some cars you can't fit in. These, like the car on screen now, the 89 Van Diemen, they are rather spacious, and you can get a bit of adjustability out of them with the seat and the pedals as well. But for me, it's a comfortable fit, but it's very, very raw, very pure. You feel every bump in the road, and you see the suspension lift as you go over a curb, and you can hear the engine and you can hear the cars in front of you. So there's a lot going on.
It's a full immersement, isn't it, the Formula Ford? You're right amongst it. You say that you can see the wheels riding the bumps, and definitely a raw experience. 4-speed gearbox, manual. You've got to use the clutch. You've got to drive the car. There's no ABS. There's no any driving aids. It's all about getting the job done. As we get a bit of a look at these cars coming down into turn 10 and back up to the front of the GMSV sign and coming back down. Looking at some midfielders here, and Tom just getting a little bit involved here with some stuff off screen.
Sorry, I was just watching the battle between Reed and Clifford, and they touched wheels going into turn 4, and that put my heart in my mouth. So it's a big dice going on there for second and third. And now back on screen here with Eric Bellamy, Paul Faulkner, a 4-car battle here. Just in front of them is the yellow 89 Van Diemen of Will Faulkner, who has dropped to, well, he came into the pits before and he's dropped all the way down the order past position 21, just waiting for it to pick back up on screen, and it hasn't. Sorry, running position 13, so he's got back going now. Just taking a look at the sweeper with, well, 57 seconds remaining on the clock, and we might have a checkered flag this time by. Looking out my window, we do, and we should start to see
there it is,
come across the line.
Checkered flag has flown, and we're just trying to pick up on them. It's Nick McBride over Andrew Reid. Jack Clifford rolls in there as well, looking for Andrew McGuinness. He started out at P5, hasn't made his way to the line there at the moment. Gets through in 4th. Richard Davison in 5th, and he's made up a spot there as well. So it's Faulkner that has gone backwards essentially out of that. So that's given both McGuinness and Richard Davison the big shuffle up there as well. Farrell and Koutsamidas. That's a ripping drive. Dean Koutsamidas, the Equity One man himself, started out of 15th, made his way up to 8th in car number 12. That's a Van Diemen RF 89.
He would have seen the rear missed after qualifying. Would not have been happy with P15 there, but he's driven well and comes home position 8. Sean Whelan across the line, who we saw off in the sweeper on the opening lap, comes across the line for 14th. 15th, Eric Bellamy. Paul Faulkner in that battle where we're talking about round is in 16th. Matt Scott in the X, Larry Perkins, FA, Elfin, home in 17th, and then the rest of the field just crossing the line now.
Well, Tom Reed, thank you so much for joining us up here. As I said, you debuted as a commentator here at Winton last year. You've debuted as a race driver here this morning, and you're back on track at 8:30 tomorrow morning. So you go and rest up this afternoon, young man, or you got some maintenance to do on a car that's just come second in a race, have you?
I do, yeah. I'll have a little bit of a chat to the driver, tune him up, and see how we go tomorrow. But on track at 8:30, busy day, four sessions.
Nothing like a young fella with a spring in his step after doing some laps here at Winton. Thank you very much, Tom. Fantastic to have your enthusiasm here in the commentary booth. We'll take the next race, which will be Group S and invited cars out on track. A big shout out to Shannon's Insurance, Racer Industries, Cool Drive Auto Parts, and Equity One. Equity One, a big contributor here this weekend. Premier for all of their help as well. Premier Hire. Keep your eye out for them. The Touring Car Tribute races, of course, being presented by Autohouse Vehicle Storage 300 in Moorabbin. The Porsche 944 Challenge here this weekend, presented by Tyre Power in Benalla. Great to see Chris Lewis-Williams and Tyre Power Benalla part of the sponsorship package. Of course, FS Spagnolo and Co., the accountants from Ascot Vale. Cave Hill Engine Services, specialists in engine reconditioning performance. Race engines out of Lilydale. Cryocycle Thermo Technologies, also out of Lilydale. Rubbercraft Race Tyres, supporting Motorsports Australia and New Zealand wide. McDonald Automotive, Phil Membry's mates from Wangaratta Automotive Services. McDonald Automotive, if you've got some car repairs or servicing done in that part of the world. Aussie Soils, premium soils, servicing Ballarat and surrounds. We'll be back with more racing. The Group S cars lined up in the pit lane. Back in a moment.
From an early age, I knew some cars were a statement of style and elegance.
I've been a motoring enthusiast all my life.
My life is hot rods, designing them, building them, and racing.
My Coupe 4 is rare and very special.
Beautiful, handcrafted, proper works of art.
This is my most prized possession.
Insurance? Shannon's, of course.
Group S cars out on track. Now, this is some racing we want to see. This is, some will say it's not for sheep stations. I cry foul on that. This is for sheep stations, and I'm about to introduce Em in, and she's got a guy here that knows all about the sheep stations and what it's like to lose one in racing. Emma, Group S cars out on track now. You've got the grid there. Let's have a look.
Yes, Darren, we've got Terry Lawler in that beautiful Shelby in first position. Then we have Douglas Barber, Jeff Di Bartolo, Jeff Morgan, Samuel Ross, help me out.
Narkovitz,
thanks, Ross.
And it's Joe Di Bartolo.
Sorry, Ray Narkovitz. And then we have Damien Mayer, Tom Wallstab, Hugh Harrison, John Floyd, Hung Do in 11th, Scott Farquharson, love that name, in number 12, Andrew Wilson, Donald Bartley, John Geist, James Ashby, Jordan Bunyan in 17, Tammy Hotz in 18, Ryan Koenig in 19, Paul Hogan 20. What a grid. This is massive. Peter Kaiser in 21, Andrew Brait in 22, Brian Weston, Christopher Ralph, Perry Spirides, Nigel Catchlove in 26, Dale Ashby in number 27, Jay Murphy 28, Rowan Hodges, Barry Cockayne, Gary Prunster and Christopher Comer. Now we do have some absences this weekend, Ross. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because we're missing Joe Collegia from Apex Steel.
Yes, and good afternoon everyone, and it's a great honour to be up here looking at this fantastic field on a beautiful day up here at Winton Motor Raceway. Yes, Joe Collegia had a mechanical issue of substantial proportions yesterday in
That's
practice.
an engine.
That's an engine. And I was here a few weeks ago with my son, and Joe was up here with his crew sorting out the new engine. So unfortunately that didn't go so well, and so Joe's not with us unfortunately in that beautiful red Corvette.
Yeah, it is stunning, and I believe he had just swapped that engine out, so he
indeed.
had just gone down capacity.
He'd been running a big block in it for some time, 427, and it was down to a more conventional, shall we say, small block 350 cubic inch Chev motor, which normally they're a very, very bulletproof and reliable unit. So not quite sure what happened there, but
That's racing.
Knowing Joe, he'll have that car back and looking superb and operating very, very soon.
And Ross, that's a great lead in because there's always races within races, but in this particular class, Group S, we've got quite a few subclasses of racing going on. Can you tell the folks what we've got? Because we've got SA, we've got S.
Yes, it's a fantastic category to get into historic motorsport because these are production sports cars of the 50s, 60s and 70s. We've just about got to start here, so maybe I'll come back to that later. But
Ross, it's interesting because I came here this weekend to see a yellow Pantera on the front couple of rows of the grid, and you're here commentating. So there's got to be a great bit of trepidation that you're up here with us, yeah?
Well, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be in a fetal position crying. So yes,
good therapy.
The Pantera is under repair, and it will be back in time for Sandown after its unfortunate meeting with the pit lane wall at Phillip Island in March.
Let's have a look here. 5-second board has gone up. The 911 of Douglas Barber, or 911, depend on where you are from. The number 8 of Terry Laura right alongside. I'm looking for Jeff Morgan in the 41, a Porsche Cup extraordinaire racer for many, many years. He knows how to get a Porsche off the line here. Joseph de Bortoli there as well. Ray Narkwitz, but it could be a bit of a surprise. Hugh Harrison out of 9 in the number 79 there as well. But we're waiting. We're getting held here for start delayed. This is not what we wanted. And I tell you what, Ross, it's been a long time since I was at the wheel of a car when a start delay sign came out. But you get yourself to fever pitch, and we've just gone. I think that was a 2-minute board. It looks like we're going to go metric minutes. No, the lights are now on, so confusion reigning down there, and away we go. It is Doug Barber that gets the clutch take up very, very nicely indeed, and Jeff Morgan goes with him. But have a look at the number 2, the big Stingray Corvette, muscles his way in, and I'm going to say there would have been a yellow Di Tomaso Pantera somewhere in the mix right there, right then.
I'm seeing it, I'm looking at it.
But there it is. We've got Jeff Morgan just holding at bay there. There's Hugh Harrison. I touched on him. And a plethora of cars come through here. Emma touched on the SA, SB, SC classes, and we're seeing that play out. A couple of bug eyes in the back there. They will start to come into their own at the end of this 10-minute race.
Yeah, Darren, we've got, I hope Ross can get into it a little bit more because we have difference in years, makes, and we've also got the difference in capacities. So
Correct.
that's what makes up the different subclasses.
And that's why if you are running in Group S, you will find someone to race with, no matter what you're running. You can come into this category with an MGB, an MG midget. There'll be people around you to dice with and have the most fun you can have. So whether you go for the front end of the field, where you've got the Group SC cars, which is the 70s, roughly speaking, where you've got the Corvettes, the Porsche 911 SCs, my car, the Di Tomaso Pantera. That's the front end, if you like. But the fast SB cars, and Terry's gone off there. The fast SB cars like Terry Lawler's 60s Shelby GT350 and the big Corvettes, They will be right up there, of course. So SC and SB, you get usually up the front. The SA cars, which are the 1950s, early 1960s cars, they have their own race down the back, and they have just as much fun as anyone else.
Yeah, well, I was saying to you in the pits before, Ross, that those MG midgets have surprised the hell out of me. Those things have the narrowest wheelbase, but they're keeping up with the 911s. The cornering's phenomenal, the braking's phenomenal.
Just want to have a bit of attention on this white Porsche. Alex Webster, a guy that runs at the front and wins races, had a mechanical issue in qualifying. He is absolutely charging. There he is. Have a look at that number 7 Porsche. He's already half the field.
Look at him now attacking the back of Hung Do's Datsun. Hung has never seen a gap that he doesn't like to go down, but Alex is going to gobble him up beside him on the outside of the sweeper here, and Alex is going to show what a class act he is through that sweeper as he punts the 911 down towards the cleavage. Hung Do will be trying to hang on, if I pardon the pun there, and the fact is that these guys will have an absolute cracking dice through this area. Look at the Alpha getting up the inside of the big Corvette, and now Alex is going up inside. That's young Sam Narkovitz, who was actually out-qualified his dad, a feeling I'm used to, in the Corvette. Whenever I hand a Pantera to my son, he puts it many places up ahead of me. Look at this side-by-side. Absolutely classic Group S racing, fast, clean racing, where you've got such variety of vehicles, and there's something for everyone in this category.
That is a man with a plan. Now, if you think you're seeing things in your Porsche aficionado, that is a Carrera, but he has put a 3-litre in it, so it's technically the same spec as an RS, which is really cool. So he will be able to, with that 3-litre, get right up there. Now, Ross, we've got also 2 tyre brands that we're running through this category. One is the Hoosiers and the other is the Yokies. Can you explain to the guys why you'd be running a Hoosier?
It just suits my car. It suits the big horsepower V8s, I find. That seems to be a general consensus. And the Yokies tend to be favoured a lot more by the Porsche guys. That's just a general comment. Everyone finds a tyre from the list that we're allowed that suits them. I've experimented with Bridgestones, Yokies, you name it, over the years, but I must say the Hoosiers have changed my life, given that I'm driving a car that's 1,400 kilograms with no power brakes, no power steering, and everything that you do is through your tyres.
Now, if you ask Alex, the Hoosiers aren't an impediment because he gets temp in them, according to him. But if you ask Jeff, no, they're cold and they stay cold and they just get heat in them on the last lap.
I tell you what, though, they've all got to try and have a look at this car, number 911. That's of Barber leading the way here. Doug Barber, half race distance, and he has got himself a really handy lead. These sort of shorter sprint races, when you've got a 2-second lead over your nearest protagonist, Joseph De Patolo, you're doing very, very well, particularly considering there's probably about half the capacity between the Porsche and the Stingray.
This is a great example of the variety in Group S racing. What you've got is different strengths and weaknesses. So there's Dougie Barber, who is a very, very good steerer, lots of experience, driving a beautifully prepared 911, fantastic power to weight, great brakes, superb handling, as against the raw straight line top end speed of the Chevy Corvette, which will always suffer eventually under brakes compared to the 911, but a well-driven car, as Joe's always is, will give it right up to the 911s.
You've never heard a Porsche driver or anyone racing against the Porsche complain about the brakes, have you?
Never.
Porsche synonymous with massive brakes, big stoppers, they haul up right across their range. We're going to see the 944s later on this afternoon. Even those things stop beautifully.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the great thing about Porsches being biased, and you're not biased, but I am, they do the same thing day in, day out. So they're the perfect choice for a racer. They're a perfect choice for someone who wants to do a whole circuit year after year after year. And some of these guys, I believe, Ross, you've been racing with for 10, if not 20 years.
Yes, I've been running the Pantera for 23 years, and my son Chris, who's in a V today, more recently as well, and in fact he beat Doug Barber here in Pantera, not something that I'd ever be able to do. Yeah, there's guys here who've been, and here's one of them. Rowan Hodges in the Lotus Elan. He's been here the whole time. When I started racing the Pantera in 2002, he was running around in that car, has been since the 90s. That's an example of someone who illustrates how long-lived you can be in this category, because you just don't stop having fun and people to race with.
Absolutely, and from getting to know you guys over this weekend, Ross, you're a lot of owner drivers, you're all owner drivers actually, and you've got a sparse crew. So there's really only a couple of mechanics, if not the driver being their own mechanic as well. So this is really self-maintained, self-funded. It's a lot of work, but it's a testament to you guys. All of the cars out there in this category are immaculate.
Well, and it's also a testament to the camaraderie of the category. Someone like my mechanic, the wonderful Mark Johnson from MJR Engineering in Lilydale, he will make himself available to help people out around the paddock as and when people need a hand, as do all the other people who are here in a mechanical capacity. The vast bulk of the drivers in Group S don't have a mechanic with them, but they'll have someone quite often that they look to and share with. Other people will have a crew, but yeah, look, it's a very much a self-made DIY category, and people, as I say, can get into this for not a big outlay in an MGB or similar.
We just had a good look at Andre Brett there in the Datsun 2000, and he's doing a terrific job. That car, the 311, that we're having a look at, and then we're getting a good look now at a Mustang fishtailing down the straight.
Terry Lawler's Shelby GT350, never called a Mustang.
No, I know I'm going to get tripped over tonight.
Ian Ross will have you shot at dawn if you do. That Shelby is an example of a fantastic Group SB car that is as fast or faster than any SC car.
I love seeing a Shelby get a little bit squirrely in the rear. It's actually exciting to watch, especially at Winton.
Being driven very, very nicely as well. There it is, charging down the straight. Our race leader, he is doing a massive job here. We're probably only going to get another lap out of this one, a 1:37.58. Lawler in that aforementioned Shelby, a 1:36.45. So that's the fastest car on track. Third fastest is the Bartolo car, and Lawler doing a very, very nice job. Just looking for Jeff Morgan. He's gone up the straight there. He's not about 10 seconds arrears of our race leader at the moment in the green 911. But our race leader now got the lights on, feeling pretty confident with himself. The battle here with the American muscle heading up the hill.
Sam Narkovic's just gone past. And there he goes on screen with Hugh Harrison, probably the best prepared and best driven Alpha in the field. That's another way to get into Group S, is through the Alpha route. And Sam Narkovic's driving superbly there, the son of Ray Narkovic, who's a couple of places further up the field.
Ross, can you talk us through these midgets that were just on screen? I'm actually blown away by how these cars perform, and I was showed some in-car footage by Alex of you dicing with a couple of them and you having them harass you around corners. What can you tell us about? I mean, these things are 500, 600 kilos. They're not that heavy. They've got a capacity of maybe 1,200, 1,300.
Yes, and I don't know where Damien Meyer is. He's not shown there. Oh, there, right down there.
Yeah, down the bottom.
I don't know what's happened to Damien. But look, what I can say to you about the sprites is, oh, there's the checker.
Checkered flag has flown there, so Doug Barber takes the win, and your field starts to roll across the line. Bartolo to Lawler. Jeff Morgan gets through in the green car. Alex Webster started rear of field in 33rd, and he has gone 5th place in this race. So these are progressive grids, and he is definitely positioned himself nicely for the first lot of racing again tomorrow.
Sad to see, I think, Tommy Walstab, who's the president of the Group S Racing Association, and the 9 to 8 that I seem to always find myself dicing with. And we've been racing together for 10 years, and as Tom reminds me, we've had so much fun and never, ever touched panels. He's dropped off, DNF'd, it looks like. But what I was saying about the midgets is they are a great way to get into the category, and at a tight track like Winton, a well-driven midget will take it up to the big cars through the tight corners in this track particularly. You'll see a brilliant driver like Damien Meyer doing things that you cannot scarcely believe are possible with a car with only 1300 cc. But yeah, it's great little cars, great power to weight ratio, and you can see how popular they are, as are the MGBs. Great way to get into Group S racing, and as I said, Group S provides variety, close, clean, spirited racing, and I just can't wait to be out there, which I will be come Sandown in November.
Well said, Ross.
It's actually quite interesting from my perspective. Unemployable driver these days, but calling a race with a guy who does a lot of racing, they're like a cat in a hot tin roof when they join us in commentary, aren't they? It's like a dance going on.
I'm actually literally shifting from one foot to the other.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's have a quick look as the field has disappeared right through there. Ray Narquitz gets through on Sam Narquitz. Hung Do eventually through in the Datsun there in 8th. Hugh Harrison in 9th there. Floyd, Bartley, Geest, Ashby, Wilson and Farquharson round out our 15, and I certainly recommend you jump on
if you like. But the fast SB cars, and Terry's gone off there. The fast SB cars like Terry Lawler's 60s, Shelby GT350 and the big Corvettes. Up inside, that's young Sam Narkovitz, who has actually out-qualified his dad, a feeling I'm used to, in the Corvette. Whenever I hand Pantera to my son, he puts it many places up ahead of me. Look at this side-by-side. Absolutely classic Group S racing, fast, clean racing, where you've got such variety of vehicles and there's something for everyone in this category.
Fantastic, great, excellent. Thank you, you two, very much for joining us with Group S. We're not too far away from having the Touring Car Legends and 5-litre Touring Car Sprint. Not a race, but a sprint, so it's a lap time. We'll be back with Brett Florence as he enjoys the fantastic event that he spent so long organising. Great list of sponsors for both categories and the event here. Of course, Tyre Power Benalla with Chris Lewis Williams, Autohouse out of Moorabbin, the Autohouse 300 storage facility there. Shannon's, absolutely synonymous with going around racetracks. Shannon's Insurance. My Race Lab, you want to increase or decrease your lap times, increase your competitiveness, make sure you check out the My Race Lab product. Equity One. Great to have naming right partners like Equity One and Premier on board. Racer Industries, and we go right back to Phil Memory's mates out of Wangaratta, the McDonald Automotive Crew, Cave Hill Engines out of Lilydale. Welcome back trackside. As expected this morning during qualifying, anyone that was looking at the magnificent display of show cars around the track and back in the pit and paddock area, as soon as the oral tone of these cars came on track, people marched their way up over to the fence, and I just watched everyone do exactly the same thing. It is certainly something that did light up the Australian motorsport scene when these sorts of touring cars started to play out there, and certainly the early era, as we call them, V8 supercars, as opposed to the current era of just supercars. Those cars do attract great attention. Brett Florence has jumped on board with me again for this one. Touring Car Legends and 5-litre Touring Cars Super Sprint. So it says it all in the title, as far as I'm concerned. It's a sprint. So we're not actually having a lights to flag race, but it's who's going to get the best lap time will be the winner of this event.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So, yeah, we've got some great cars out here. And excuse me, and some different stuff as well. They're all legends of in their own right, these different cars. So
hey, I'll tell you what, there's a legend, Eddie Dobbs, hey, in the
exactly, mate.
In that out there, what an absolute legend of certainly a Victorian motorsport. That is awesome to see Eddie mixing it up. He's going to get some paint torn off the side of his car, I would suggest, in this session, though.
Yeah, that FE's been around for a long, long time. Who would have thought?
Yeah, terrific to see. Darren Knight's also jumped back in here. He's got a big smile on his face. So note the day, DK smiling here at the Winton Festival of Speed, as he's keen to talk about what we're about to see take place on the screens as well.
G'day folks, we mentioned Eddie Dobbs in the famous ex-Graham Blanchard FE Holden, the bright blue machine. That car, I think it's still for sale, folks. Dobbsy's pretty much hung up the competitive helmet, but that car has been a race car its whole life. It's never been a road car. So originally built, as I mentioned, and run by Graham Blanchard back in the 50s.
Sure
there he's on screen right now, the number 27 FE Holden.
I remember Brendan, someone was another guy that ran a red one of those, and they experimented for years shimming the spark plugs with copper shims so that the electrode was pointing in the right direction and it was half a horsepower on the down on the head flow sort of thing. So
all counts when we got a little grey motor under the bonnet.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I mean, we all know how to make a grey motor go fast. Use methanol, but weren't allowed to, eh?
No.
Yeah, so this is terrific, Brett, throwing this together. And I guess we sort of hark back to what you and I were talking about a little bit earlier. If you build it, they will come. Give these people these cars, give them a place to put them on a racetrack, and they will.
Yeah, absolutely. And all these guys with these cars, they're not racing. They just want to come out, have some fun, but they're sitting in sheds. So our whole purpose was, let's just grow this and get more and more of these guys back at it. Back out of sheds, back on the track, and there's some cool cars. The Mustang that's running out there, that's, I've been told that was the first 69 Mustang ever to run in Group N, and it's been fully restored. Graham Hunt owns it now. It was his car back in the day. You've got Dennis O'Brien, who's running around in that 64 Galaxy. It's a Holman Moody Galaxy. Like, how many of those are, in the world starting, and then here we have it's running around on the track, and it's a tough thing. 427 dual quad, it's unbelievable.
And built from parts supplied by none other than Harry Firth.
Yeah, and Len Lukey.
Yeah, and Dennis O'Brien was looking to build a Galaxy in the early days of, it was called Appendix J and then became Group N, wanted to run a Galaxy. Harry Firth was great friends with Len Lukey, the late Len Lukey, and secured some parts. Dennis bought a body shell and put the car together. Ran in the early days of Appendix J or Group N back in the early 80s. Not quite Group N spec these days, a little more freedoms back in those days. And here they are on screen now with the Graham Hunt Mustang behind the Galaxy. That's Steve Trevika driving the Galaxy, the former BNT Touring Car Series race driver, and Dennis O'Brien is driving the Graham Hunt Mustang.
Gee, I tell you what, they still haven't fixed that pinion seal leak on the Galaxy, have they? That's kept the back end of that car rust-free for many years. It's just synonymous with that sort of era of car that when you really got your oil heated up, it expanded all the components and was pretty hard to seal up here. Interesting one there, Brett, that car number 1. I think, no, number 3 with young Tabitha Ambrose at the wheel, a name we know. And I'm going to say it's not Rowan Ambrose who held the lap record here in club cars in his RX-7 all through the 90s and early 2000s. It's not his son Cadell, who's going to be joining us a little bit later, who's currently running full spec John Gourlay Audi in the Australian Sports Sedan Championship. It's Australian Touring Car Champion Marcus Ambrose's daughter.
Two-time.
Yeah, two-time in the Stone Brothers Racing outfit there. So it's second generation Ambrose Racing, and really cool. Had a chat at dinner just briefly because I got myself a little bit confused, and I sort of fancied myself as a bit of a Holden man, and I went, hang on a minute, they're calling this an A9X and it's a 4-door. Marcus got out the old AI, he's pretty good at that, and looked it up, and he said, oh yeah, look, he goes, I think, you think of the Bronc cars and the Grice cars, they're all hatchbacks. And he went, I don't know about this, and
he just needed to find a nerd. There's plenty of nerds here.
Marcus and I had learned something last night where Tabitha just sort of looked at us and went, it doesn't have power steering, it's really hard.
Yes, the 4-door A9X, that was the predecessor to the hatchbacks. They built the 4 doors first, and they were several of them were built obviously into Group C touring cars, and then of course the more glamorous hatchback then took over. So Tabitha is driving the ex-Warren Cullen 4-door A9X. Warren, of course, just down the road, ran a very successful Wreckers in Settlement Road, so very much a local. And that was the car that Warren ran at Sandown in 1977. Would have been the Hang 10 400 probably in those days, and that car then became the T car, or the spare car for Bathurst in 1977.
Yeah, and it's great that we've got Tabitha here. Like, it's, supporting her, and she's become a VHRR junior member, which is brilliant as a result of this. So we're hoping to try and get Tabitha to more of our events, and she can experience, what it's really like, in cars of the yesteryear, really.
Started out in XLs, now moved on to state level Formula Ford this year, and now driving something that's not going to turn and brake as well as a little Formula Ford, boys.
No, that's exactly right.
It'll give her. It'll start to give her the feel of some horsepower, though. That is certainly where it is. You can see certainly where Marcus is landing his business these days. She's probably going to slide into a Trans Am car at some point, or a TA2 car, for all whatever the different naming nomenclature for those cars are. Here's something awesome. This car blew me away at the Bathurst 12 Hour when it was run, as it was rolled out. And the reason I liked that was that I drove myself around in a V8 Calais wagon for a while, and I thought I'm getting pretty racy with it here, guys. And there it is. What a car, a works entry that the Kellys drove, and bring it out on track. Let's see it. Someone's got it. Let's get it out there.
Yeah, and that's owned by David Hulk, actually, and yeah, it's a tough sounding car when you're up against it. So yeah, it's really impressive. And interestingly, his wife Rebecca's running around in the little Ford Laser. So 2 production cars, and this is an area that we would like to explore. Guys that have got production cars, if they're listening, and of that era, the Bathurst 12-hour type production cars of that sort of
before the GT3 era came in.
So it's something that we're really keen to explore, and in the same principle as this, get some of those cars out on the track, and there's some unbelievable cars in that era.
Kane Fitzgerald we're having a look at here, for all intents and purposes, one of the local entries, just sailed down from Albury out of the Jones boys shed. Of course, when Kim and Brad were running that business these days, Brad, the sole proprietor up there at Brad Jones Racing, still current spec championship team, but this Aussie Mail car was quite famous. I remember one of these didn't have a great run with the Adelaide
this is the
Parkland circuit. This is the one, is it?
Yeah, it's the one.
You'll see the red arrows that are painted on the side of the car, and they appeared after that infamous Clipsal rollover. This way up.
Exactly, yeah. It's, if this is pointing that way, point it that way. But yeah, there you go. That car's had some rework done over the years, but again, and a car that is very, very well known. Talking about well known and 12-hour races in Bathurst, this car, the likes of Dick Johnson and John Bow, but prior to them, the guys that actually worked hard to get this thing competitive was the Yuldens and Chris Muscat and the guys at Centerline Suspension did such a brilliant job setting this car up. It was another one of those Kent Yulden cars out the side door of the Skunk Works there at Ford Motor Company. And Brett, of course, who was a younger brother of Kent, and they did such a great job with that laser, and it's been returned to one of those liveries that it did the 12-hour in. But I remember that the laser, the Amazer, and again, Brett, the car looking for somewhere to race.
That's right,
and
exactly.
It can't. In some of the stricter senses, it can't run as an improved production car because it has roll cage through to the engine bay, little different things like that, which I understand when you've got 40 other cars complying to a rule set, you can't just come swanning in. But those cars are out there, and look at it, you give it a beautiful sunny day here at Winton, and these cars ran in those early Winton 300s, the Group E spec type of, and they had 49 cars running here from all over the country. Wow, that's cool, isn't it, watching the...
Dennis O'Brien in the Graham Hunt Mustang. You mentioned, Brett, one of the real early Group NC cars. NC became a category in 1995 in the historic scene. That was the first fastback, as you mentioned, Brett, built for NC. Caused all sorts of controversy when it was presented for a logbook. There was a bit of legal threats going back and forth, and it was magnificently built car. Actually, it was built with onboard jacks, which had to be removed to be eligible for historic. So, it's a very controversial car, but a very quick car at the time.
How cool is it that Tabitha's running the car in the T number?
Yeah, that's T for Bathurst in 77.
It sat in the shed with the T car number on it.
T for Tabitha this week.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right.
That's good pickup, DK. I like it.
Occasionally it happens. Of course, back in the late 70s, teams used to often have a spare car. Even if they had a two-car team, there'd be another spare that was the T car that was used to give especially co-drivers some extra mileage, some extra practice during the Bathurst week without wearing out, I guess, the components of their race cars. So T cars quite popular in the late 70s.
Peter Aboud is the one that's leading this super sprint. Let's bring it back to the here and the now, and he's done a terrific job, a 1:36.34, nice lap there. Then we've got the 51 of Josh Buchan, who has done some laps around here in a TCR car in recent times. Josh has jumped on board the VF, the Commodore there, the 2014 entry. He's done a 1:35. Then we've got car number 6, which I'm not too sure who is driving car number 6, but we'll get back to that. Then it is the number 19 of Jacob Curry, the Ford Falcon, the 5-litre touring car there as well, so from the supercar era. The 21 car of Kane Fitzgerald, the AU Falcon in the Aussie Mail livery, currently sitting there in 5th place. The car number 66 of Andrew Cook, the yellow, red and blue car, which I think that's that car right there. We're looking at
better electrical car
right now. That car currently on track in 6th place in this super sprint, and car number 85, David Hulk, that aforementioned R8 sports wagon. So some decent bits of equipment, good lap times, 1:30.12 now to Josh Buchan. Probably fully expected to see Josh start to push a little bit harder towards the end of this session, as we see the ex-Graham Hunt car just disappearing off into the dirt there and spraying it up. Driving it very, very nicely though, pushing hard in the number 69, currently sitting down there in 8th place for Dennis O'Brien. Not too sure what was being held out at the start-finish line there. A yellow board, might be last lap actually, just looking at the time.
And this the VF supercar here, that's Peter Zibris in the famous Jamie Whincup Paul Dumbrell car that ran out of fuel at Bathurst in 2014.
Led the half of the last lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Jack, can you hear us?
He could hear him.
Radio check.
Yes.
Famous moment right there.
It's
there
more,
it is.
You know, and Peter was telling me yesterday, you know, it's the third most winning chassis, I think, in supercar history, and Jamie's, you know, won multiple championships in it, but it's more famous for the running out of fuel than what it is anything else.
Yeah. Well, you know, like it is. You know, they're kidding themselves that world if they think the championship matters over the 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, the one everyone remembers the bit of the 1,000.
You know, and that the car that just went past then, the Future Tourer. You know, that's a category that started and it's long gone, and you know, it's a Brock Team Brock car, the Bianchi Future Tourer there.
James Brock, of course, took the win. The Future Tourer, a proposed category that supported the Bob Jane Bathurst 99 meeting for Super Tourers, the 2-litre Super Tourers. Future Tourers didn't quite catch on, but James Brock, a superb drive in shocking conditions.
And that the winning car is actually sitting in the museum here this weekend. This car, I believe, is the sister car that was built after that car, and the winning car was built out of an Oscar.
Just interesting enough, guys, just while we were talking about the Future Tourer there, that awesome Adam Jones Datsun 240K was on screen. He's given that an absolute pedal out there, just moving it around. 240K, straight 6, that venerable Nissan engine, though I think it was in production for 20 years.
Absolutely.
And just sounded fantastic. It's sort of got that flat 6-cylinder drone to it. There goes Tabitha Ambrose, making her way back to the pits. The car of Tabitha just going back, just trying to find where the T car is. So she did a time of a 143 mid-pack, 8th. So inside
overall.
the top 10. So that's a good run. A young lady, I hate to sound like it's a little bit cliche, but a young lady in a hurry. She's certainly pushing her motorsport agenda and trying to do it very well. I'd say Dad has got the hand on the reins and making sure the right choices and the right directions are being done. And right now, getting your backside into a race car nearly every weekend is probably a good plan.
An actual a third generation Ambrose racer, because Marcus's dad, of course, was very quick on the Apple Isle at Cortina at whenever the Touring Car Championship wound it up at Simmons Plains.
And certainly in Formula Ford, in that Van Diemen company as well, was Marcus's dad had a lot to do along the way there. So, yeah, terrific to see that. Really good, Brett, that you were able to, I guess, find a spot for Tabitha to come here this weekend.
Yeah, it was, you know, we put the feelers out, and a good mate of mine, Craig Bowring, who's here today to watch, and he said, yeah, put her in my car. You know, let's have a go. So, and VHRR has got behind Tabitha, as I said, as a junior. So, you know, we can hope to help her. So, let's get behind her.
A fantastic initiative, because not everyone necessarily with a car like that wants to get involved in the cut and thrust of actual racing. So, as Darren said, it really gives these people a platform to run their cars, give it a bit of curry, so get into it, but not into the potentially panel damaging full-on racing. It's certainly an event we used to see at the Muscle Car Masters at Sydney Motorsport Park in years gone by, and it sort of dropped off the radar, unfortunately, but it's great to see it back here this weekend, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, that's our plan, and you know, with our good sponsors, this can only grow, and it's an area that we want to see. And like I said earlier, you know, guys with production cars from that Bathurst 12-hour era, or you know, the old Nations Cup, all that sort of stuff. We'd love to get those guys back out and, you know, putting on a display for the crowds, because there's some cool cars that ran in those days.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for bringing all of the good oil, the good information in behind that category we've just seen leaving the track there. Touring Car Legends and 5-litre Touring Cars Sprint, and we've got them back on track, of course, twice again tomorrow. So if you've enjoyed it today and you've been watching on our live stream, make your way to the track tomorrow. It's going to be a full-on day. Seriously, the first race starts at 8:30 and finishes at 5:30, so the day won't be done until 6 o'clock. Give it your attention. We've got a small field of J, K and L cars just about to head out on track. We'll take a quick break. Greg Smith will join me in commentary in just a few moments.
I was 16 when I first saw her. Loved her utterly. She was so sweet, so perfect. Still is. She's got a whopping great 2-stroke engine under that gorgeous aerodynamic body.
Insurance? Well, Shannon's, of course.
No one knows your passion like Shannon's. That's why we offer special limited usage rates and even club plate cover. So call Shannon's on 13 46 46. Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
Well, welcome back, the Winton Festival of Speed for 2025. Big congratulations to not only the circuit here at Winton Motor Raceway, the green grass, the place is clean and vibrant, and the VHRR bringing the Winton Festival of Speed back again here this year. And we go to some real historic sort of pieces of mechanical equipment that are lovingly used and I'm going to say abused. Get out there and race them, and that's what they are doing. They're giving it a red hot go. Probably not abusing them because they want to make sure they've get through all of the races here this weekend. I refer to the JK&L, very compact field of 5 cars out there on track, and really looking forward to seeing how this race plays out. It's going to be a good battle. 13 minutes of racing to take our attention, and I guess some of the time in these races it's all about making sure you get it to the finish. Big shout out and thanks to Shannon's Insurance, Racer Industries, Cool Drive Auto Parts and Equity One for their great contributions to the Victorian Historic Racing Register and their day in day out operation around the historic scene of Australian motorsport. I'd love to bring in both Phil Memory and Greg Smith now to run us through the grid sheet. And Greg Smith is a guy we had up here last year, and he does a brilliant job, and Phil, of course, knows his way around the historic scene. Greg,